Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of the Richard Lewis Show. I'm your host Richard Lewis. Sam's back from his travels. It was, Vegas this time?
I only went for 2 days. Just 2 days of pure degeneracy. Concentrated degeneracy.
What did you do that's so degenerate?
Probably everything that shouldn't be said in the show. Yay.
Okay. So, I mean, can you give us at least
Gambled, drink,
beaked?
maybe. Just everything that's good.
Good. I'm glad. What did you think of Vegas?
It was alright. It's like, when you go in there, when you're not from America, I think you get to, like, decipher just how, like, perfectly done it is to just make you spend money. Like, the 40-minute walk through the hotel if you want to get food, and then you have to go all the way back to the casino. Like, the perfect air conditioning to make sure you never want to leave. And you can't even smell cigarettes anymore. That was a big change. Last time I went to Vegas, everywhere you went stunk of cigarettes. I don't know if they've upgraded the ventilation or something now. But you can't even smell cigarettes in places anymore. It's next level.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, definitely. I like the way we started talking about the practicalities of air conditioning when we were meant to be talking about degeneracy. But okay, it's good.
Yeah, it's just something I noticed, but it's good.
No, it's good. It's those kind of observations. I mean, I can't wait for you to write Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas too.
The Revenge of the Cold.
Yeah. The smell has gone. That's the tagline. Las Vegas doesn't smell as bad as it used to. A roller coaster novel by Sam Davies. So look, man, we've been trying to knock this fucking show out for ages. We're so far behind the insanity. I feel like I just want to get this out the way, just so we did it, just so we talked about it, just so we covered it. But like, I feel like claustrophobic and edgy, like that we're never going to catch up. Like, I feel if we put out 2 podcasts a day, it would still take us like 2 weeks or something to get back to where we are. Like, we've hit peak insanity. I mean, every day just throws up 5 or 6 stories. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's happening. We've got blanket press coverage that I can't believe people are absorbing, and nobody's going, wait a minute, this seems a tad agenda-driven. You know, people are just letting it slide. There's censorship. There's, violence to shut down free speech. These are the good guys, apparently. It's a fucking mess, and I don't know how I can get. I feel exhausted reading about it every day. I mean, that's the key thing I've noticed here. Like, I almost wonder if there was a psychological component, Sam, that put me off wanting to make the show, because talking about it is exhausting, And like, some people say, "Oh, I used to like your show when you just talked about Counter-Strike and frivolous." Like, I don't want to just be escapist distraction nonsense, do you know what I mean? Like, all of this stuff is important, and I want to talk about it, but fuck me, like, I'm burnt out with it. I'm just burnt out at how stupid it all is. Like, I just can't, when it's like we're all having a fucking bad trip, like a bunch of us have dropped acid, both the left and the right. We've taken acid together, and it was a bad batch of acid, dude. Like, it was the bottom corner. When they used to soak the blotters?
It was made by a guy in his bedroom, and he didn't dry it right, and you've just got all the bad in one.
Yeah, and we've just got the stuff at the bottom, like just the stuff at the bottom. We've popped 4 or 5 Where's Wally's, and we're never coming back.
Lost it all.
We've lost it all, and we're having a bad trip, and somehow together we're trying to collectively get out of the bad trip, but neither side is seeing the same thing. We're not even having the same hallucination. So how the fuck can we come up with a roadmap about how we get out of it? I mean, that's where I really feel that we are right now. Obviously, by the time this is out, we'll have done our PewDiePie video. We've got a Milo video coming, which, again, the mainstream media shows the only thing it's good for now is character assassination. That's all it's good for. I mean, really, if you need blanket coverage about why you're a piece of shit over something that you said 10 years ago, the mainstream media got you covered, fam. I mean, they're gonna fuck up your shit real nice.
Say no more, fam.
Yeah, say no more, mate. It's like going to the barbers. Yeah, well, what do you want? Complete character assassination based on an out of context quote, please? Gotcha, fam. That's the mainstream media in a fucking nutshell. And, you know, and they're doing it to everybody that doesn't stand for the things they stand for, that wants to express the message that they want to express. Journalism is dead. I can't fight it anymore. Journalism in its traditional sense, in the idea of the truth-telling sense, it's gone. It's over. It's fucked. There's no coming back from this brink. There is no coming back from a point when journalists believe absolutely, without question, that it's okay to tell lies, to be biased and partisan, and to cherry pick facts and present it as the complete story to the populace, because what you're doing is good, because you're going to save people, because that's what you stand for. That's not what journalism's about. That's the first thing you get told when you go to journalism school. Check those bags at the door. And yet now that is the norm. Meanwhile, you've got clickbait, corporate sponsorship across the fucking board. This is on both sides of the equation, by the way. I'm not going to say the right are doing it, doing journalism a service right now. They ain't. They're still making all the same mistakes they ever made. It's just a fucking mess. It's just a horrible time to be a journalist, to want to be a journalist. Obviously, every week I get kids, oh, you have inspired me to go into journalism. And I just want to say, just don't, mate. Because here's what's going to happen. It'd be great if I believed you could change the system. There's no way to change this system and have a job. There's no way anymore. There's no way. You either get on message or you get crushed. That's it. That's where we're at. And with all of that in mind, obviously I don't want to fucking do a show. Obviously I don't want to talk about this. I'm tired of talking about it. I keep thinking the trip's going to wear off, the acid's going to wear off, and we're all going to be sat there naked on the beach like, holy fucking shit, what was all that about? Man, do I feel stupid. Man, do I wish I hadn't carved my skin off because I thought I was covered in spiders. I mean, that's never happened, obviously. But
shit they tell you in school, that is, man.
Yeah,
there was this one woman who cut her arms off because they thought they were snakes.
I must have told you this before. I got the bus driver. Didn't I tell you?
I think so. Is that when he drove off with all the kids?
Yeah, he drove off a cliff because he thought he was being chased by a dragon. That's what I got.
Things in there were happened.
No, but it was like, I even remember asking the guy as a kid, precocious little scamp, ain't I? I asked the guy, I said to the guy, the drugs guy, I said, what newspaper was this published in? Can we see the newspaper clipping? Well, I don't happen to have that to hand. Anyway, here is the brain of a heroin user in a jar. Look how small and shriveled it is. Is that an avocado, sir? Get that fucking kid out.
He knows.
He knows that it's all bullshit. So yeah, obviously no one's ever carved this kid. But you know what I'm saying? I just want to go back to normal. I just want to talk about, here's a funny story. Wow, isn't this interesting? What does this policy mean? I don't want to have to pick through blanket wall-to-wall coverage, a web of lies every time Donald Trump says something, a web of lies every time somebody says, hey, you know what a good counter-argument to that is? These people are not your fucking enemies. These aren't evil human beings, It's crazy. Anyway, before we get into it, obviously, another thing that's going to happen is we've got the website now.
Yay.
So even though we haven't released it yet at the time of recording this, by the time you watch this, it'll be up. So the thought process behind doing the website's quite simple. I don't really have anywhere to put my writing anymore or my reporting, and because of my agreement with Turner, I cannot write for anybody else. I can do video content but basically I can do content for myself. That's the agreement. And I can appear as a guest on like interviews and stuff. But that's the extent of my agreement. And that's fine. They view me as a commodity. I get paid a lot of money. Because I'm a commodity, I dig it. I have no problem with it. But I thought if I had my own website, then I can put my stuff on that website and people can go to it and read it and cite it. And I can get back to just doing some reporting on the side. So it's rlewisreports.com. Go there.
That's now. Give him a little sneak peek.
You want a sneak peek? But it won't be a sneak peek, will it, by then?
Yeah, it'll be live, exactly. But
all right, okay.
Showing him what it looks like, man.
All right. But we had a chap kind of come forward and offer to do it for us, and so I'm porting across all my old school articles as well. You can see articles going back to 2011, 2012. I'm basically giving all of my all blog posts and freelance stuff that I have the legal rights to up on there as well. And I'm working on a big report. I mean, like, this is another reason why I wanted to make this website in regards to this skins gambling, these case opening websites. Again, a little sneak preview of that. We got somebody who codes them to basically tell us how it all works. And they're a fucking scam. I mean, they're a joke. He showed us the technical aspects of it, what a back end of one of these sites looks like. You can rig the odds. It's incredible. And we're going to present all of our findings. And I think it's actually going to be probably, I think it'll be a big story in 2017. I think so. So I'm looking forward. But yeah, a banger, as you call them. So lots going on, but definitely go to rlewisreports.com from now on. Make some comments on the website. Make me feel loved. And that's going to have our iTunes and RSS feed on there, and all of the videos, everything I ever write, it's all going to be there. And of course, a link to our Discord, so which we are super grateful to everyone who sat in that, helping us dig out stories and news and just promoting the show. Right, let's get into it then. So we need to talk about Berkeley, obviously. The Berkeley riots. It kind of feels a bit moot now with everything else that's gone on, but it's important that we talk about these things because this was, for me, a watershed moment to show what the American psyche is right now, how divided, how fractured it actually is. But before we get into that, okay, I just want, there was obviously objections to Milo Yiannopoulos during his speaking tour, going on board, going into these campuses. And the Huffington Post had a moment of sanity, a moment of clarity. They allowed, I guess is a way of wording it, Matt Teitelbaum, a president at the College of Democrats of Maryland, and he wrote an article saying, "I'm a liberal, and I want Milo Yiannopoulos on my campus." There's a picture of Milo there wearing a Make America, Great Again cap. And it talks about how he wants, people to be going on the campus that challenge the left, that challenge these democratic views. He rejects that Milo is a neo-Nazi because he isn't. He's half Jewish, openly gay. He would have been one of the first people in the camps under Hitler's Germany. I mean, there's no doubt about it. When people throw the term Nazi around, it's often very stupid indeed. But there is nobody it is more stupidly applied to than when you apply it to Milo Yiannopoulos. I've yet to find anything on print that even is in line with Hitler's ideologies. Milo doesn't want to put people in camps. He doesn't believe in eugenics. He doesn't believe in racial purity or superiority. So I do not know, and also is a very vocal proponent of Judeo-Christian religion. So I do not know where you would find a way to spin it that he's a Nazi. If you ever want to identify a moron, this is how you do it. Hey, is Milo Yiannopoulos a Nazi? If they say yes, they are fucked. I mean, they're like one of them babies that are born with like just, what's it, cloverleaf syndrome or something? Just no brain. They've got a skull and just enough neurological activity in the lining of the skull to be alive, but they clearly cannot have a brain. There is no evidence for this. There is nothing out there substantial that would make Milo even look like a Nazi. And I think somebody dug up some old photo of like when he was 17 and he had an iron cross around his neck, the cross of iron, a replica of it or something. Well, okay then. That would make Lemmy from Motorhead a Nazi. Didn't see that in his obituary. He obviously is a young, teenage, rebellious Jew. I imagine perhaps wearing the cross of iron is a bit taboo. What do I know? But certainly the idea that he is a Nazi in any sense of the word is ridiculous. It's absurd. So this article went out in Huffington Post, which I've got to say surprised me immensely because we all know the Huffington Post is a sewer of propaganda and lies and leftist bullshit. Now, it just goes to show that there are some liberals And this is why I've always understood the criticism, Richard, when you tarnish all of the left um, as one mind, you are wrong. You are incorrect. I understand that criticism. I understand it. But it's very hard when we want to talk in generalities to kind of explain how broad the spectrum has got. I would like to describe these people almost as centrists. These people are closer to myself in the sense that they just want to hear dissenting views. They just want to have a discussion. They just want to have a debate. They don't want to censor anybody, even though they will vehemently push back against these views. They will do it in the correct arena, the arena of ideas. These people are now centrists, as you're going to see, because I'm going to show you what a leftist looks like. And that is the ever mentally ill Zoe Quinn, who wrote a retort to this article. And keep in mind, the Huffington Post article, I'm a liberal and I want Milo Yiannopoulos on my campus. What did the mentally ill Zoe Quinn have to say about it? Counterpoint, I'm a liberal and shut the fuck up. Sound. This is the level of intellectual discourse from the left that I talk about. Centrists, welcome. Leftists, they've gone fucking doolally. I mean, they are so wackadoo right now. It's incredible. Counterpoint, I'm a liberal and shut the fuck up. I mean, not a counterpoint at all. No, seriously, shut the fuck up. We don't need more think pieces in this format. You being a liberal lends absolutely zero additional validity to your arguments when they're about giving hate a bigger platform or a fair shake or whatever you're on about now. Well, again, it just shows the level of ignorance from this failed games developer. And that is that obviously if I said I'm a Nazi and whatever comes out of my mouth next is going to be tarnished by the idea that I am a Nazi. I'm a communist, and you would say, oh, well, he's a communist, so don't know if I want to necessarily buy into what he's about to say about the capitalist system. When you say, and conversely, if I were to say, well, I'm a socialist, and this is the reality of privatized healthcare or whatever. Your political views, your political belief system definitely is relevant to when you're talking about things in a political sphere. And what this person on the Huffington Post was trying to do was demonstrate that I'm a liberal. You claim to be speaking for me by banning Milo, but you're not, because I'm on your side. We wear the same clothing, if you will, the same political clothing, but you're doing something I find abhorrent. So it is absolutely valid to bring this up. To then also go on and say, oh, you're giving hate a bigger platform. It's not a bigger platform. And to be honest, I still haven't had it explained to me what about Milo Yiannopoulos is hateful, in the classic terms. Again, they're trying to alter language. When you talk about hate speech, there's a very specific legal definition of that, none of which Milo has ever breached or violated, or he'd be prosecuted. So it's a ridiculous thing. Then you probably think you're being true to the notions of tolerance and acceptance that the left ostensibly stands for. Well, yeah, he is. But you're less Sorkin hero and more Dungeons and Dragons rules lawyer trying to argue with the dungeon master and derailing the entire game night so that you can feel like you want a debate that no one but your ego benefits from. I mean, you can see straight away, Zoe Quinn's broad horizons. I need to make a really good salient point. I need to use an example that everybody can relate to. But I am one of life's failures. What will I use? Dungeons and Dragons. You're arguing with the DM and holding up games night. Like, I would wager 90% of the population are like, huh? What the fuck are you talking about? And I say that as somebody that can actually relate to that, by the way. But it's not an analogy I would use as a fucking adult, is it? It's ridiculous. There is nothing to be gained from helping you master debate yourself. Very funny, never been done before. Your arguments aren't worth engaging in when you're so hyperfixated on the act of debate itself that you have zero interest in the realities of what you're asking for and how they might affect other people. The only response I have for you is you're being a petty little turd baby and need to shut the fuck up. I mean, imagine a world where you're so mentally ill that you think you stamping your feet and saying, I don't want the nasty man to speak, you get the right to call someone else a baby. Imagine that level of delusion. Imagine how ill that person is. It's quite frightening. It brings me back to the point, just to repeat it, there are so many undiagnosed, unidentified mental illnesses that is led to this. Social media, the internet, it's led to new forms of neuroses and illnesses that I think in 10 years we're going to have a better handle on. Zoe Quinn needs to be put in a specimen jar and pointed to as an example of this, ultimately. The devil doesn't need more advocates, but feel free to go right to hell all the same. So there you go. Nice and reasonable. That's what they have to say. Now, here's the thing. Because she likes to present herself as being like the only way to stand on this issue. The only way to stand on this issue is not to be a rules lawyer, to protect others, because that's what good people do. And the left continually want to make speech violence now. Speech is violence. I'm going to show you examples of that on the show. Speech is violence. That's what they want you to believe. This act, completely tearing down what most children learn, which is sticks and stones will very much break your bones, especially when they're wielded by Antifa thugs. But words will never hurt you. Now they want to tell you that words themselves are violence. Words are violence. This is very Orwellian. But here's the thing. She's presenting herself as doing it on behalf of those disenfranchised people. Like, these liberals are bad liberals. I'm the good type of liberal. Well, what's liberal about operating from a complete point of self-interest? And let me just point out a few things. Why would Zoe Quinn have such an objection to the existence of Milo, to Milo's speaking tour? Well, I'm going to tell you, she absolutely has a conflict of interest and something very personal against Milo. And I have to bring up the Ralph Retort blog, unfortunately, because all these mainstream media darlings, the games press that lauded Zoe Quinn and talked about her as a victim during Gamergate, when in actual fact she is a vicious, venomous cunt. This is, but I object to a lot of the stuff Ethan Ralph has done and said, but unfortunately this is the source. Now, you may recall recently that Milo announced that book deal with Simon & Schuster. Now gone, of course, at the time of recording this. Watch the special Milo video for that. But here it is, the Ralph Retort. Zoe Quinn got dropped by Simon & Schuster at the height of the Gamergate nonsense, when it was still getting milked. They basically had agreed to publish a memoir. I think it was called Crash Override, How to Save the Internet from Itself, or something completely idiotic. Now imagine how ridiculous it is that she even feels comfortable using the title Crash Override after the Crash Override network logs were leaked, and they showed the group, her and her friends, to be serial abusers of anyone they felt disagreed with them, and engage in all the harassment techniques they were supposedly there as a support network to operate against. Again, not reported by the mainstream games press. You've got people on Wikipedia that continually delete, Wikipedia admins that continually delete anybody trying to update this, because this is what they do. They control information. They're not interested in facts. They're interested in feelings. So anyway, she got dropped by the book publisher that picked up Milo. I wonder if this might have given her a grudge or something. Perhaps some sort of, pissed off bias. And it doesn't even end there, of course. I mean, in an era when you cannot get the games press to follow a story to its completion, like they take a detour as soon as it becomes inconvenient. Gamergate is bad. Gamers are dead. Gamers are scum. Oh my me. All of the facts point to the fact that these people are just mentally ill. Well, we'll ignore that part. Not as happy an ending as we were looking for. We just file that away and we just don't report about it again. And if anyone calls us out on the one-sided nature of the coverage, we just say the story's played out and we don't want to write about it anymore. We feel it's old news. And that's what they've done. Publications like PC Gamer, we don't want to get into the Gamergate thing anymore. Right? Not anymore. When gamers were dead, it was okay. But now, now that it turns out all the people that were beating that drum were fucking villainous scum. Yeah, I'm less interested, actually. So Milo has written articles over at Breitbart about Zoe Quinn. And here's just one example I picked out from September 2015, when Zoe Quinn, hilariously, along with Anita Sarkeesian, these people were allowed to address the UN on cyberbullying. I mean, Zoe Quinn is engaged in all sorts of stuff. She's not a liberal. She's not somebody that hasn't even engaged in cyberbullying. I mean, she's done it herself, as is her colleague Randy Harper. You know, these people have done these sort of things. You know, she got her ex-boyfriend gagged by a court, preventing him telling the truth about their relationship because it was harassment. She'll use any tool in the fucking silencing playbook to get what she wants. And here's Milo calling her out on it, writing an article, you know, pointing out what a fucking idiot she is and how she's like the worst person to be talking about cyberbullying, cyber violence. She's just doing it to be a celebrity. And you can see from the opening line, as always, Milo didn't pull any punches. A failed game designer and professional victim, most famous for cheating on her boyfriend and inspiring a year-long hate campaign against video game enthusiasts, has tweeted she will be speaking at the United Nations this week. So, do you think maybe she has something against Milo? Do you think this person should be any kind of moral authority on who gets to speak and who doesn't? I don't think so. And keep in mind that in this article, they are not saying Zoe Quinn shouldn't be addressing the UN. They're not clamoring to have that right removed. They are saying she is not suitable to do it. Two very different things. So let's get to Berkeley. And what a fucking shit show. I mean, can we just say immediately that this is one of the most embarrassing, just one of the most embarrassing moments in sort of this idea about the First Amendment in America. This is one of the just lowest points in the debate about free speech and freedom of expression. I cannot think of anything more embarrassing to come out of campuses. And of course, it's not just embarrassing because there was extreme violence. Now, let's just show a little bit of sort of all the coverage that was going on around it to begin with, in no particular order, because we've just kind of thrown this onto a page. But you can see here over at Bloomberg, they actually, again, and I've said, I've told Milo this before. Milo, I've said to him, dude, when you get called a white supremacist or a racist or all the things that are demonstrably not true, you need to start suing people. And he says that you never get litigious, that once you get litigious, you lose because the public will not sympathize with your position anymore. You keep showing everybody that these people are wrong. I disagree at this point. I think if I was Milo, I would have lawyered up. And you can see here that in this article, they try to imply heavily that he was an anti-Semite, and which is, again, so far off. So this is over at Bloomberg. That was their take on it. Then you can see this was weird. I don't even know what this is. Vice published this. They've got a food section, right, called Munchies. Okay, appropriate for you, Sam.
What is this?
Right? Alt-right provocateur Milo Yiannopoulos left this shitty note on a restaurant receipt, and you can see here in a blank space where the tip normally would have been. Apparently, he went to what was it? It was a Buffalo Wild Wings, right? And they said here that he wrote, "We're in the no tip crew. God hates fags. Sorry about it." Now, I'm not having, and crucifixes I'm not having that. Interestingly enough, this made it onto Reddit. Nobody has questioned this at all. This was reported by a local news station, KRQE. and Vice confirmed it by talking to the restaurant. This just seems absurd to me. I mean, first of all, I don't understand why this would be news by any stretch of the imagination. Celebrity writes something on receipt. Celebrity doesn't tip. Like, I guess that's pretty much what it comes down to. And just as well, someone in the group did leave a cash tip, $60. So they tipped 50%. So the first thing that was going on, all that money, a book deal, he's bragging about all the money he makes, and then he doesn't tip. Yeah, they tipped 50%, actually. That's well above the going rate. And then on top of that, no evidence whatsoever that it was Milo Yiannopoulos that wrote this, said this, and the incident was just never talked about again. And then, really strange way to end the article. Whether or not that tip was worth the trolling, one can only imagine. Okay, well, good. You're meant to be reporting, not imagining. But thanks for keeping me informed about it. But we can be sure of one reassuring thing. Okay, this should be good. Yiannopoulos' queasy discomfort as a basket of fries, ranch dressing, and spicy wings juked it out inside his lower intestine at 30,000 feet. So in the way of reporting, what were you insulting Buffalo Wild Wings food for? Like, what have they done? What have they done? And why would he be queasy? It's good food. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's mad. What is this? What am I reading? What is this shit? And just to underline the fucking point here, why is a food vertical even talking about Milo Yiannopoulos? What manufactured nonsense this is. This is garbage. This is utter fiction. I would bet on it. And then there's other things that they said about him. Constantly again talking about how he's a hate monger and he's all of these things, which just. He's not, he wants to have he condemns Black Lives Matter as a movement. He's vehemently anti-Islam and he's anti-feminism. And those things are ideologies, not people. I think once you say an ideology can't be criticized, I think you're on very fucking shaky ground. Now, anyway, there was a ton of violence. I mean, people actually got fucked up. And let me, I'm trying to think what's the next one to go to next. There was actually a woman here. Shit, I should show you this. It's in the other doc. Hang on, I'll get it for you. There was a woman who went to Berkeley and got pepper sprayed, right?
Yeah.
Now, you might be thinking to yourself, she's a Trump supporter. I mean, obviously, some people might be thinking this, not you, but you know what I mean.
People are mentally ill. Well, she did deserve it for Trump, I guess.
She's a Trump supporter, right? Now, here was the problem with it. She wasn't wearing a Make America Great hat again. She was wearing Make Bitcoin Great again. And this was here. She did an AMA on Reddit, actually. So she was there talking about, it's peaceful debate and blah, blah, blah. And didn't really advocate for Trump. Wasn't wearing it. She is a Trump supporter, as it happens. But she wasn't wearing anything externally that would have reduced it. She just had a red cap on. And it said, make Bitcoin great again. And she got pepper sprayed in the face. That was what was going on at Berkeley. How's that even justifiable? Like, in what fucking world can anybody justify it? Well, I'm going to show you, actually, the insanity. There was also something else, actually, which is worth talking about. I did say I'd show you examples of this. Let me just find this tweet. I mean, this is the idea of this words as violence. Now, I don't understand that. I think even if you say the most vitriolic, unacceptable, venomous stuff about another person, it can never be spun as violence. You might not like it, but it's never violence. I've been as an observer at like EDL rallies when they've been in Birmingham, and I've seen firsthand. I went when there was sympathy race riots out in Birmingham, and I've seen both sides of the equation. The words themselves are not the violence. It's when you start smashing up property and people, that's when it becomes violence. But look at this, though. This is just an example. Caroline Petite. Let's not forget that fascist hate speech itself is an act of violence. Shut it down!
It's not. It isn't.
And then let's dance in the clubs of the Castro, obviously, all night to celebrate ourselves and each other. This small victory. And then let's keep fighting. That was, her thoughts on the Berkeley riot. Shut it down. It's perfectly okay to do these things, which is just boggles the mind. I mean, it's especially hilarious when not hilarious. I shouldn't say hilarious, but we have to rely on the New York Times to give us a little bit of sanity. The New York Times here talked about, they did a report of how the violence marred and undermined the protests, which it absolutely did. And good on the New York Times that have been very, very anti-Trump and hysterically leftist at times. They did it here. But a student, people were getting beaten up for looking like Nazis. And what's crazy here is a Syrian refugee got beat up at this protest at Berkeley. Let that percolate in your fucking brain. This was a Syrian refugee was beaten because they were a Nazi. So let me just read the story. Protests are a staple at Berkeley, and I've always appreciated the activism here. Wednesday night, I saw many creative posters urging people to fight Islamophobia, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, sexism, and racism. One group of protesters wore red ribbons emblazoned "Resist," while another led a resistance dance party. I don't know what one of those are. Just move with the rhythm and resist.
You know how good they are getting change, mate. It's a dance party's the only way.
Yeah, that's it, man. The truth. Like when you look through all of human history, nothing brings about political change like a dance party.
Remember the old Rosa Parks break dance in the back of the bus, mate? It's really changed the world.
When Rosa Parks did the worm, that was when all the whites went, shit. I guess these black people are kind of okay, and racism died. They never tell that story. The Rosa Parks worm, yeah, ridiculous. Resistance dance party. Until Wednesday, I never felt in danger during a protest. I guess you're not wearing a Make America Great Again hat. You should try that. Around 7 p.m., I saw a huddle of people yelling at one another. As more people surrounded them, a burning red trucker's hat was held up on a stick. There were reports that another student wearing what appeared to be a Make America Great Again hat was severely injured. Then I saw someone wearing all black walk up to a student wearing a suit and say, "You look like a Nazi." Those fucking well-dressed Nazis. When's it going to stop, bro?
Yeah, since when the Nazis just wear suits?
Think about it, though. Like, would I go up to the Nation of Islam and you look like Nazis? Why? Got suits on. Bow ties as well, though. My bad.
Okay.
Sorry. You look like a Nazi. The student was confused, but before he could reply, the black-clad person pepper sprayed him and hit him on the back with a rod. I ran after the student who was attacked to get his name and more information. He told me that he is a Syrian Muslim. Before I could find out more, he fled, fearing another attack. Amid the chaos came word the event had been cancelled. It was clear early on that the majority of violent protesters most likely were not from the campus, going to prove that to be inaccurate. Still, in the aftermath, I heard people say that peaceful demonstrations would not have succeeded in preventing Mr. Yiannopoulos from speaking. So was violence appropriate? A Trump supporter was hurt. A Syrian Muslim student was hurt. Does either of those statements seem more outrageous than the other? Violence often has unintended consequences. For one thing, those who initiated the violence implicated many others in it too. Black students, Latino students, gay students, and others who were already vulnerable and were protesting peacefully became even more vulnerable to the backlash. And let's talk about that backlash. Obviously, we didn't cover it. We're probably not going to cover it, not through bias. I'll bring it up now. Somebody did go to one of these rallies and shoot somebody. Somebody took a gun, and when somebody started a Milo supporter, when they started jostling them, they pulled that gun out and shot somebody. This is what, and that's fucking contemptible, by the way. I absolutely do not support that whatsoever. Violence is fucking wrong. Shooting people is fucking wrong. There isn't a right way to do that. Now, that said, you can't turn these protests into cauldrons of violence and not expect it to escalate. And that's what happened at Berkeley. I mean, Berkeley is a touchstone now for this type of violent, escalation. So I give my praises to Melanie Raimier for chasing up the student and giving an accurate report. Made all the more profound as she is a student of Berkeley, and obviously credit to the New York Times for running it. So that's what was going on. It got even crazier. You'll see here, freelance journalist Nick Monroe tweeted about it. And he put a nice little kind of collage, I should say, up of it. So Laurie Penny couldn't be more left-wing. I'm pretty sure we've mocked Laurie Penny on this show for some of the idiotic things she said. But she did a profile on Milo Yiannopoulos. This is somebody who's contributed articles to The Guardian. This is somebody who has been in New Statesman. She's a leftist. Yet, after doing a profile on Milo, trying to do an honest piece of journalism and see it from the other side, which, again, I think she's a ridiculous figure. But when ridiculous figures do things that aren't ridiculous, they should be absolutely applauded for it. It's the only way we're going to break the cycle of insanity, is if we say, okay, you used to be a nutcase, but you're better now. Like, again, we've had Ian Miles Chong on the show. Good example of that. Came back from the brink of insanity, But you can see here, just went inside with a few young Republican people to do an interview. Never seen such a huge yell of shame. They love saying that. Again, without irony, like, they're young. They watch Game of Thrones. Do they want to be like the crowd that fucking abused that woman, Cersei Lannister? I suppose they honestly think in their mind that her being pelted with shit and having men wave their dicks at her to sexually humiliate her, they probably think, she's a Nazi though, isn't she? So it's okay. They probably think that. They probably think, oh, isn't that's actually a great moment. Not the moment where every other human being kind of has a pang of sympathy for a contemptible, horrible figure. It's brilliant. Let's do this to all the Nazis. So they're chanting shame. And then event at Berkeley cancelled, everyone evacuating, hearing rumors that tear gas and rubber bullets are being used. I'm safe, but can't report live a bit for security reasons. For reference, I had to be evacuated with the Milo crew, which is why I can't tell you where I am. I'm currently watching CNN with my entourage. I'd appreciate if people didn't hammer me for this piece about Milo's entourage before I've written it, but I get the concern. I don't think it's a choice between treating people as human beings or treating them as far-right activists. That binary does a lot of harm. So she's saying what people should be saying, that, they difference of opinion. I might even find their politics vile, but they're still humans at the end of the day. There isn't a binary where it's like, you're either a Nazi or a human, And keep in mind, of course, Milo isn't a Nazi, but, that goes without saying. That has been a problem in political discourse for a long time. The idea that if someone is acknowledged as a person pain, it's an excuse. I'm listening, but I'm going to have to turn off Twitter while I actually write this piece. So if you've got anything more to say, go now. And just look at this barrage of abuse. Laurie Penny is a fucking cretin. Laurie Penny is a collaborator. Laurie Penny says she's not normalizing. She's trying to understand these Nazis. What is there to understand? Painting Nazis as sweet kids makes you a sympathizer. Giving Nazis a platform makes you a collaborator. No one's a Nazi. Stop with the hysteria. Laurie Penny is hanging around with Nazis again. That well-known leftist who writes for The Guardian. Polishing up the boots, putting on the braces. Yeah. You're literally promoting violence. How? She's a victim of violence. She had to be evacuated. Laurie Penny thinks she's being useful by talking to alt-right fascists when actually we already know what they think and what they say. Well, you don't, because you wouldn't label them fascist. Laurie Penny either genuinely likes Milo or is the world's biggest sucker. And then this one, down in the bottom, where I'll end it. Ambassadors are always first to be shot. Are you saying she's the ambassador? Are you saying she deserves it? She should be shot or something? That's where the left is at. It's incredible. So, getting back to things that went on at Berkeley, let me just see here. Okay, so the student papers, the Berkeley student paper, what have they got to say about it all? I would imagine video footage of your campus on fire, people in the streets getting beaten with sticks, people saying, I don't know if I want to speak to Berkeley anymore. The president saying, I think we might have to withdraw their federal funding. This is a disgrace. Might give you pause for thought. Might give you that moment of self-awareness. Well, it didn't, did it? Because, of course, this is the left. There can't be any self-awareness here. There's no grounds. So Mediate has combined, kind of done a nice little combination. 5 op-eds were published in the Berkeley student paper. That's 5, all right, defending violent riots. Just straight up defending it. And again, I'll just give you the examples. I think I'm going to read you one in more detail, actually. But just to give you some of the high points here. So the Daily Californian Editorial Board published 5 op-eds, not from one person, from 5 students or former students who believed that the riot was justified. Nisa Dang demanded critics check their privilege before condemning the riots. Of course you did.
Yeah, of course.
Blaming the violence on the appearance of the police. So the police that were there to stop violence caused violence. I don't care what Breitbart article or liberal bullshit listicle you've read. Where are you then? If the right wing's lying and the left wing's lying, who's telling the truth? Oh, it's just Nisa Dang, obviously. I don't care what your experience in white suburbia might have taught you. Police are violent agents of the state. All right, seems reasonable.
She's just mental then.
Well, I mean, certainly, yeah. But I think I've actually got her article. It gets worse. I think it's actually in here somewhere. I'll find it. There's just a big long list of Berkeley stuff. But that's what she says anyway. Juan Prieto insisted the violence was justified because Milo Yiannopoulos could have outed illegal immigrant students. To me, the argument should not revolve just around freedom of speech, but also around the hate speech that fails to respect the humanity of undocumented people. This speaker has never provided an insightful look at conservatism, nor provided intellectual debate to the arena. He has fabricated a tool to sensationalize himself with, while providing a platform for white supremacists to come together. This is just subjective nonsense. This is just your thoughts. None of these things are factual. And I think if you cannot see the violence was justified because he might have done something. Like, put it this way. Whenever you go back and say, and do the philosophical exercise, would you shoot baby Hitler? And people are like, oh, God, it's a tough one. Oh, it's a baby, but we know what he goes on and does. And, oh, no, do I kill a baby to save, oh, God, right? It's a quandary, right? It's like an issue. You got to, you wrestle with it, right? You don't even know he was going to do these things. Yet you're saying it's okay to be violent. Violent, absolutely. Violence is justified Because if we weren't violent, it wouldn't have shut the event down. And we had to shut it down because he might have done these things. That is no argument. That is no argument. A self-described queer activist and former columnist Neil Lawrence said, these were not acts of violence, they were acts of self-defense. So, again, just a reminder, and I really want you guys who watch this show to be mindful of this and to push back on this whenever you see this happening. Words are not violence. You being violent to somebody who wants to say something is not self-defense. But they're going to try and recategorize this. Litigation will be coming in the same way we had to acknowledge 63 genders were up to, or whatever it was in New York. It started out as a guideline. It became law. This is what's going to become law now. There will be litigators. There'll be legal minds of this political persuasion that are going to try and make words violence. And if somebody says something that offends you, you're okay to attack them. They're going to try and create this loophole. Self-defense against words. It's coming. I don't know what the clause will be called, but it will exist. And if you don't think that's the end goal, or one of the many end goals for the left, you've not been paying attention. Neil Lawrence continues, and to Yiannopoulos and all your friends who invited you and hosted you and defended your right to speak, I recommend you learn your lesson. Our shields are raised against you. They're not shields, mate. They're sticks. A shield protects. A stick smashes someone in the face. That's a big difference. Our shields are raised against you. No one will protect us. We will protect ourselves. Desmond Meagley argued the violence that forms the foundation of Yiannopoulos' ideology is far worse than any tactic the Black Bloc uses. You don't have to like property damage, but understand that without it, Yiannopoulos would have released private and sensitive information about innocent students and encouraged assault against them. I've watched Milo's talks. He doesn't do that. That's not right. Welcome to this speaking engagement. Today, I will be revealing the identities of secret illegal immigrants, and I want you to beat them to death. He doesn't open his show like that, ladies and gentlemen. I know that probably surprises you. That isn't what's going on. So this is when you know you're in the wrong, you have to lie to justify it. It's what children do. It's what children do. And this is, unfortunately, mentally where the left is at. They are at the mental age of children when it comes to justifying things that are unjustifiable. If the fireworks or the damage done to the Amazon store scared you, know that every single person in that crowd was scared too, even those dressed in black. All right, cool. Josh Hardman. Yiannopoulos and his supporters have a track record of actively targeting people in their hate speech, and the ideology they peddle perpetuates ideas that urgently endanger members of our community. In short, the principle of freedom of speech should not be extended to envelop freedom of hate speech, for the unchecked normalization of hate speech will have real consequences. Well, again, understand that, first of all, there's no freedom of speech protects all speech. If something it crosses the line and becomes hate speech, then there's redress. There is legal redress and recourse. The idea that you should be able to shut down the speech before it has happened because of a label you want to subjectively apply is nonsense. And what these people don't understand, because they're morons, is that by extending these ridiculous kind of thoughts about words of violence and all that to anything that is labeled hate speech. Well, the government could use that same law to shut down your speech. And it's happened before. We've shown examples of it on this show where it's like, well, we've had universities where men's rights activists have been banned from speaking on the grounds that it is sexist and offensive and endangers females. Well, then all the men go and complain when a feminist speaker comes in, a well-known man-hater, someone who advocates for castration, and guess what? She can't speak either. And then you go, oh my God, you're censoring me. You made that possible. You enabled that because you want limitations on free speech. And of course, the Berkeley professor Robert Reich. There's too many easy jokes to make about that one, Sam. I'm going to leave that low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Do you want to do one?
No.
Go on, middle name fourth.
Yeah, Robert Four, right?
Right. He said that the violence was secretly carried out by undercover right-wing infiltrators allied with Breitbart. And he said this on a CNN news speech.
Any
and again,
proof for that one, Drive?
Well, I'll open it up. I'll open it up and just read you what he said. This is the former Democratic Secretary of Labor, Robert Reich, said, I was there for part of last night, and I know what I saw, and those people were not Berkeley students. Those people were outside agitators. Okay, cool. Maybe that's true. Maybe they're outside agitators. We're going to prove to you that they weren't, but maybe they were. Maybe they were outside agitators. Why are they allied with Breitbart? Why are they right-wing? There's rumors that they were actually right-wingers. They were a part of a kind of group that was organized and ready to create the kind of tumult and danger you saw that forced the police to cancel the event. So Donald Trump, when he says Berkeley doesn't respect free speech rights, that's a complete distortion of the truth. And then he got asked again, you think it's a strategy by Milo Yiannopoulos or right-wingers? And he said, I wouldn't bet against it. I mean, there's nothing I like more than to turn up to events clad in black, beat people up with sticks, to have speakers whose right to speak I champion cancelled. I love doing that in my spare time. Meanwhile, of course, when all at the height of the election cycle, when all the DNC leaks were coming out, and we saw that the DNC were paying what they described as mentally ill people to go to Trump rallies and start violence, we just swept that one under the rug. There was video evidence of it, but we don't talk about it. We just can't talk about that. It happened, but we can't talk about it. It's wrong. You're a conspiracy theorist. What are you, a nut job? Look at him, Robert Reich, here. I saw these people. They all looked very, almost paramilitary. They were not from the campus. I don't want to say factually, but I've heard there was some relationship here between these people and the right-wing movement that is affiliated with Breitbart News. I mean, these are big claims. No evidence. But I suppose better that than look internally at the culture you've fostered on campus. So it doesn't end there. The madness definitely doesn't end there. There's oh God, hang on. Oh, here it is. I've got that article, I think. So back to the articles. This is the Daily Californian. Violence is self-defense. So, and this includes, obviously, links to the Nisa Dang thing, the Juan Preto stuff. Hang on, let me just open this. Why isn't that link opening? Have they took it down? Oh, no, sorry. This is just a compilation. Yeah, so here it is, right? Boom. Nisa Dang. So this is the craziest article, I think, when she talks about checking your privilege, because she, absolutely lays the blame at the feet of the police, and then, funnily enough, actually mocks Milo for being evacuated from the building. Really weird. So she talks about the usual lies about Leslie Jones and everything else. And let me just read this here. Look. No one actually wants to protest. The decision arose in the face of the fact that the student body was not taken seriously when it said repeatedly, 1 million times over, that inviting Yiannopoulos to campus was probably a bad idea. Well, what about all the people who said it wasn't? What about all the people who wanted to hear him speak? What about the people that were ambivalent? You might need a citation for that one, darling. From where I was standing, there was no actual dialogue about why Yiannopoulos should be invited. There was. We saw some of it on Huffington Post. Despite his violent actions, never been violent, and despite the fact that, as evidenced by recent events, most of the student body didn't want him there. Besides, can you really have meaningful dialogue with people who at their core want to eliminate you? But he doesn't. I'm sorry, Nisa Dang, you're not interesting enough. He doesn't want to eliminate you in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't want to kill you. There is absolutely nothing that you could find that would back that up. And if Berkeley College Republicans really wanted him, and it really did, well, he came. But for every action, there is a reaction. Just as you all claim that he should be allowed a platform on campus under the guise of weird misrepresentation of plurality of ideas, students are allowed to protest him. You absolutely are. Go outside, wave your stupid little signs, play your drums, drop to your knees, screaming no. You'll do your little autistic screeching, whatever you want. When you start attacking people and burning things to the ground, do I need to explain this, that you've overstepped the boundary? Do I need to? Apparently I do. Then, here it comes. To Milo, I'm sorry you were too scared to stand your ground during a routine Berkeley protest. I mean, are these people for real? I'm sorry that you're so fucking sheltered, so fucking divorced from reality. You're too scared to hear what a gay Jewish man has to say because you think he's a Nazi. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry you're so fucked in the head, you're going to be an emotional cripple for the rest of your life. I'm so sorry that you're going to go out into the big, wide fucking world, and when there are no safe spaces and just a fucking shitty, soul-destroying day job beckons you, right? You're going to be on a fucking sick note for as long as you can be with depression and anxiety, strung out on fucking pills that you think are going to make it better, when in actual fact, the problem is entirely your own creation. You don't have a disorder beyond your inability to accept it's a fucking grown-up world and you are not in charge of it. Hopefully, you'll think twice now about recruiting. So now he's recruiting. Recruiting for what? The Milo Bent Jew Army?
Yeah, he's starting the race war, mate. Didn't you hear?
All right. My bad. Where hate speech may be allowed a platform by the administration, but will never be tolerated by the student body. Here's a big fuck you from the descendants of people who survived genocides by killing Nazis and people just like them.
So...
To people with platforms who decide when a protest should and should not be violent, I'm only going on what people like Martin Luther King and Gandhi said. I mean, shit. Aren't I a fucking privilege? Yeah. You speak from a place of immense privilege. Gandhi, immense privilege. Colonized India. Martin Luther King, Black Civil Rights Movement, immense privilege. These people advocated for peaceful protests, speaking from privilege. Some of the most underprivileged people in the world. Like, how fucking stupid is this woman? As I recently wrote in a tirade against this brand of idiocy, again, civil rights movement, peaceful protest, all idiocy, non-violent resistance, idiocy, asking people to maintain peaceful dialogue with those who legitimately do not think their lives matter is a violent act. Putting hashtag love Trump's hate at the end of a post is a privilege that many of you take advantage of, especially when there are those of us who know that our grandparents and parents survived hate only through the grace of violent actions. No offense. Look, darling, when the fucking stormtroopers come for you, yeah, go get your gun. I'll be out there with you. I'll pump round after round after round into an institutionalized fascist fucking power that wants to kill me. If it's kill or be killed, I'm on board with it. I won't do what Nappy Man does with his immense privilege and sit down and get shot in the head. I won't be like a Tibetan Buddhist and set myself on fire to make a fucking point about occupist China. I won't do those things, right? Like, I think that's a level of forgiveness and enlightenment I'll never get to. But this, a gay Jewish man standing up and having a fucking chat, is not that. Maybe you do have ancestors that got fucking got killed, right? Trust me, they'd be fucking ashamed of you. They'd be ashamed of how you think. They'd be ashamed of you conflating their experiences to go into a fucking wealthy university, all the opportunities that you could want, and yeah, but he's going to say something. It's the same as a genocide. You're pissing on the graves of people who fucking died in actual genocide, you fucking moron. What a fucking... I'm out. I'm done. Fuck this cunt. That's unreal. I'm actually agitated. Now, interestingly enough, the police were told not to arrest people. They had a policy to not arrest these people. So understand that when people came here to cause violence, outside agitators or not, the police said, we're not going to arrest you. We're going to allow you to do these things. They watched, right? So again, this Nisa Dang piece about how the police really lit that torch paper and set off the fucking riots. Just look at this, right? Link you to the Breitbart report, because why the fuck not? You're either on board by this point or you ain't. You either think this is genuine or you don't. You can see here that they spoke to the police. Obviously, Breitbart were organizing the riot, so it was really with their outside agitation. So it was very easy to do. And you can see the security coordinator who liaised with the police said the police had a no arrest policy. And you can see just confirmation of that. During a conversation, it was how do we deal with this? And it's simple: enforce the law. And confirmation that the police had said to the security detail that they have a no arrest policy. Now, fortunately, some people were arrested. Justice was actually done. And just actually, before we get to who they were, because that's kind of where we're going to end the Berkeley stuff, there's actually the Denver Post ran a story here about how there's going to be a probe into why the police were hands off, because it was poorly handled. Everybody who took a beating that wasn't stopped, any property that was destroyed while police watched, the police are culpable for that. They didn't do anything. Now, look, maybe the police are in a rock and a hard place. I think if they go in Nixon style and start truncheon on everyone, it's a PR fucking disaster. And obviously everyone starts sympathizing with these fucking morons with their, these drum circle fascists, right? Like, that's what they are. They're fascists without the uniform. They look like hippies, they smell like hippies, but everything that comes out of their mouth is straight out of the fascist playbook. Shut down dissenting opinion through violence, right? So this is a head fuck for the police, but it doesn't excuse it, and I can't apologize for it. So this is the Denver Post. Berkeley took a hands-off approach to protesters on the campus last week when violent rioters caused chaos when they overtook a largely peaceful protest against a right-wing speaker. But that response by campus officers is being questioned amid widening political polarization and increasingly hostile demonstrators. Last week's protest featured black bloc tactics employed by mask-wearing protesters dressed head to toe in dark clothing and using crude weapons to vandalize property. While officers largely stood to the side, about 150 people labeled agitators by Berkeley police used metal rods, Molotov cocktails, and commercial-grade fireworks to overwhelm police and smash bank branch and storefront windows in downtown Berkeley. They also lit raging fires in a rampage that caused more than $100,000 worth of damage while protesting the scheduled appearance of right-wing provocateur Milo Yiannopoulos on February the 1st, whose event was cancelled while he was evacuated from campus in a bulletproof jacket. Only one person was arrested in the mayhem that injured 6 people, prompting criticism of training for campus police at the entire University of California system that emphasizes officer restraint and patience during protests in the name of protecting students' free speech rights. Now, again, I agree with that. I agree with that principle. If you're protesting peacefully, even if you are in a police officer's face calling them pigs and being unreasonable, right? It's still peaceful. It's words. If they then steam in and truncheon them, I am very much on the side of the protester. But when they start beating people up, police have got to intervene. They have a sworn oath to protect citizens. It's not negotiable. The UC hands-off approach was to the citizens' detriment and the officers' detriment in this situation, says John Backett, a lawyer for the union representing about 400 of the system's police officers. Officers should have been given more discretion to prevent the vandalism and violence and make arrests at the Berkeley protest. The frustrating thing for the police officers is that they weren't allowed to do their jobs. Now, as a result of this, there's going to be an investigation into why it was so poorly handled, because the arrests were limited, to say the least. Now, this is going up all the time, and there's been multiple reports. In fact, actually, I think if I click on that, it's actually been 404, but 3 people had been arrested. There have been several arrests. And here's what's interesting with all of these claims about the rioters being these outside agitators. Well, one of the worst happened to work at the campus. He was a staff member for University of Berkeley. Again, I'll take you back to the Ralph report. He was very quick to pick up on this one and did a subsequent update 3 days later. What happened here was Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, I know. She'd said these people were outside agitators. The left were regurgitating this myth of outside agitators. Anna Kasparian, as you can see here, said officials at UC Berkeley say the people who got arrested weren't students. Where did they come from? Now Trump threatens to pull funding. There was a big drive to try and get this lie out there that outside agitators, right-wing agitators, were doing a false flag operation, because woe betide leftists take any responsibility for this shit. It was Nazis that started the violence against Nazis, because we would never be violent. We would never be violent. So this Twitter account called Pave Darker said, hey, Anna Kasparian, it's interesting that you, spread this lie. And he decided to do some investigation into it. So he started having a mooch around and started looking at people. And you can see the tweets here. I was asleep while all this was going on. I woke up to it, heard what this guy had done, and decided to investigate. And there's some screenshot of tweets there. A quick search of Facebook under his Twitter handle leads you here, spelt incorrectly, giving both his location and much more. And you can see photos of the guy. If you then do a simple Google search of his name and the word Berkeley, you get to this page, and you can see this page is salary data. And on this page, you will find this information. Kind of looks like he's employed by the university to me. It's not difficult, Anna. Any fucking idiot can do it. You're a journalist. It does prove one thing, though. I'm fucking better than you, and I do this for free. And that is, of course, a callback to what she said during, after Trump had been elected, where she said, I feel like I'm fucking better than you, much better than you. You are garbage. You can call me a social justice warrior. I don't give a shit. You're deplorable. I have no respect for women who voted for Trump. I think you're fucking dumb. That's who I am. You are a piece of shit. There you go. So I'm fucking better than you. And it turned out, indeed, that this chap was a university staff member. So this garbage, nonsense about outside agitators is gibberish. And just on top of that, the guy gave an interview to the New York Daily News, which places him at the scene. So he was there. He can't even say, well, I wasn't there. So you can see that Berkeley put out a response saying they were aware of the allegations involving the UC Berkeley employee, and they're going to wait and work with the FBI to pursue all the leads in investigating the case. So one of the rioters, one of the most violent rioters, worked at the university. And yet I'm supposed to believe no leftist would ever be violent. It's only the right wing that would do it, blah, blah, blah. And it's just nonsense, just utter nonsense. So that was the Berkeley stuff. And, I think that, definitely led to this big debate about how far, things are going to go. And honestly, I kind of feel that there's just no fucking way that we can kind of come back from this. If you're a leftist now, you are doubling down on violence being okay. You know, punch a Nazi, burn a university to the ground, anything you have to do to stop hearing speech that you don't want to hear. That is your official position now. If you don't believe that, you will be ousted from the club. So pretty crazy. And also as well, just as an aside, I mean, I don't know if you want to play this. I might give you the full video if you want, Sam, so I can have a break and calm down. But have you seen the Tucker Carlson interview with Yvette Falarka?
Yeah, I saw that.
Seen that? So I mean, I'll give you a link to it, and you can listen to some of the things she says just for a few minutes. Feel free to jump back and forth if you want. I mean, she opens up pretty ridiculous. But this was on the Tucker Carlson Tonight show. Basically, this is Yvette Falarka. She's a middle school teacher who, in her spare time, organizes protests for a group by any means necessary. They are violent protests, and she actually supports the right for people to engage in violent protests to shut down speech she disagrees with. Feel free to have a listen to it.
Should I play at the same time as you, and then if you want to comment, you can jump in? Because it's a long video, right?
Yeah, we can just do the highlights. I'll watch it and tell you when.
3, 2, 1, go.
Indianapolis. Most people were appalled by what happened, but Yvette Falarka is not among those people. Besides working as a public school teacher in California, she is the national organizer for the Coalition to Defend Affirmative Action, Integration, and Immigrant Rights, and Fight for Equality by Any Means Necessary. BAM is the acronym. Falarka is willing to integrate violence into her political agenda, as you can see from this clip of her disrupting a rally last summer in Sacramento.
Are these people getting your off street? We don't have to give a speech. You need to go, boy. Hey, say we should. Guys, be nice. Come here now. Off our street. Off our street. You, sir, please. I'm just here to protest. Please, up. Stand down. Get out. Get back.
Falarka helped organize the Berkeley protests, and she says activists ought to copy his tactics for other speakers and events around the country. Yvette Falarka is with us now. Yvette, thanks a lot for joining us. So you did a bunch of interviews after, and you were asked about this, and you were, to your credit, I think, very straightforward about it and unapologetic, and you said, yeah, this guy was a fascist, Milo's a fascist, and we shut him down. You didn't pretend otherwise. We shut him down, and that's what you do with fascists. I think I'm characterizing what you said correctly. Just so we can understand the standard here, what is a fascist?
So a fascist is someone who's organizing a mass movement that's attacking women, immigrants, black people, other minority groups in a movement of genocide. That's what a fascist is. Okay. So it's someone who's committing violence? And it's someone who's committing violence and who's trying to organize other people to commit violence. Okay. And Milo Yiannopoulos is a fascist. Okay. So he's committed acts of violence against the protected groups you mentioned? Well, what he's doing is he's trying to be the youth face and the token that other people who are organizing violence try to hide behind. And so in all of his talks all over the country, what Yiannopoulos has done is whip up a whole lynch mob mentality where people who come to see him or his supporters not only agree with his views, but also attack other people. And that was certainly true in Washington State when one of his supporters came and actually shot an anti-fascist protester. But in Berkeley, we made sure that didn't happen because we were able to shut him down. So, but you're conceding that Milo himself has not committed acts of violence, and nor has he incited violence by the legal definition. He'd be in jail if he did. But you're saying that because people who agree with him have committed violence, he should not be allowed to speak. You know, a fascist movement takes many forms, and it always tries to have one form that looks respectable and a little bit milder. But Yiannopoulos isn't just a stand-up comedian, and he isn't someone who just has ideas and posts them up on YouTube. He's someone who is funded by Breitbart and Steve Bannon to go around to college campuses to try to recruit other young people to then conduct those attacks on his behalf and on Trump's behalf. But I'm really, really glad to say that thousands of us were out there last week, or February 1st, and made sure that there were thousands of us to make sure that we defended our campus, this community, and especially the immigrant and Muslim students who were under attack and have been under attack by him and other fascists.
Right, and by using violence, I mean, you don't shy away from that by any means necessary is the name of your group, and so it implies violence. So what should we do with fascists? I mean, if you think that someone is espousing genocide, what should we do with them? I mean, should that person be allowed to walk free? Should we put him in jail? Should we kill him? Should we exile him? I mean, it's a sincere question. If you're willing to use violence because you think someone is espousing genocide, what's the penalty for that?
Well, first we've got to make sure we nip it in the bud, and we make sure that they're not allowed to recruit and act as if it's respectable to call for the mass murder of millions of people. In fact, millions who make up the majority of people in this nation at this point.
Okay,
and so they
just
can't
to be
hide
clear,
behind the
there's
platform
no
of free
Milo
speech.
Yiannopoulos, this is not a defense of him, just a factual point, has not ever said that, in public anyway, not that we have a record of. There's no evidence that he has called for the genocide of anybody, as you know, but you're saying by transference in some way, he inspires people who believe that, I guess. But you're not getting my question. Like, when you say nip in the bud, should he be allowed to go on the subway and talk to the guy next to him about perhaps joining his movement? Or should he be allowed to talk to people in restaurants? Or what should we do with the fascist who you believe is inspiring genocide?
So first of all, the alt-right is a neo-fascist movement, and they're trying to hide behind some softer versions of their more open counterparts who identify themselves as Nazis. But they're still part of the same movement, first of all. Second of all, when someone is trying to speak at a campus or at a rally, they're doing it not just because they have an opinion, but someone like Yiannopoulos or any other alt-righter or fascist or neo-fascist is doing it to recruit other people. No, we don't let them recruit. And in fact, when you look back at the Holocaust and the lessons that we draw from that, we don't say, oh, well, at least we let them voice their opinion. We say never again.
Okay,
well,
so,
again
and
is
when,
now,
and when,
especially
when we say that,
after Trump.
We elevate people like Dietrich Bonhoeffer or members of the plot against the leader of Nazi Germany to kill him. So, I mean, that was the response, of course, to the leader of that fascist movement. Most people think it was legitimate. Do you think, you're not answering my question, that people like Milo, who you've decided are fascists, should be allowed to speak in public? You said they weren't allowed to speak at Berkeley.
He should not be allowed to
speak on a
speak in
street corner?
public to spread his racist and misogynistic and homophobic lies. No, he does not have the right to do that.
What about
when he's trying to? When
I
he's
think I'm gonna
using
tap
his
out
speech to
there,
whip
mate.
up-
What's up? You got me in a fucking triangle. You choked me out. I'm done, so.
I mean, that is the, that is the mindset of these people, unfortunately. You're not allowed to talk. You're in public because you're saying things we don't like. I mean, she's completely mischaracterized everything he said, everything he stands for. She's talking about how he's a recruiter, and if he recruits people, I mean, there is a difference, by the way. I mean, this seems to be an obvious point in retrospect, but tell me if maybe I'm being stupid. There is a difference between persuading someone and recruiting someone. It's a very important distinction. If I recruit you into an organization, it's very different to then if I just persuade you to agree with me with an argument. She seems to have an issue with persuasion because Milo's not recruiting you. He doesn't want you to join anything. He just wants you to listen to what he has to say. And if you decide to agree with him, he considers that he's, fucking red-pilled you or whatever they want to call it. So she actually has a problem with persuasion.
Yeah, there's no list at the door on the way out to sign up for the fucking right-wing army. It's not Dumbledore's secret army that Milo's building. They do love a Harry Potter reference at the left too. So I thought I'd draw that.
To be clear, this is a woman who has felt comfortable going on, and a teacher, someone who works with young people, who has felt comfortable going on a national mainstream television program saying that if you are labeled fascist by people like her, you do not have the right to speak in public, and you should be violently repressed if you try to. That's liberalism these days. She is the mean little pinched face. Like, you ever watch Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
It's Thelma, right?
Yeah.
The one with the glasses.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, I don't know. If Thelma just had, like, a real bad experience as a kid, this is how she would have turned out. Just look at it.
If Velma was triggered from age 7.
Yeah, if something had happened, how do you even begin to try and break this down. I don't know. All right, well, look, that's Berkeley. Let's never speak of it again. We'll have to, though. But let's instead go on to something just as wonderful and I'm sure is going to trigger people and be emotive, and it's going to exasperate me because why not, right? Let's talk about this travel ban that happened. Now, this is going to surprise you, Sam. So I want you to strap yourself in. I wasn't really for the travel ban.
You trying to tell me you take each point individually and base it on its merit and not just wildly swing your arms? Every time Trump says something.
Definitely don't do that. Definitely don't do that in an airport, by the way.
Yeah, straight Zoidberg.
People might think you're doing something else, you know.
No.
Now,
Zoidberg.
yeah, just having a officer. I was just doing
Just
an
having a
impression.
Zoid, mate.
A Zoid. Why not Zoidberg? But the hysteria around the travel ban, I didn't like either. Now, just to be clear, why I don't like the travel ban is that it showed everything that the more moderate critics of Donald Trump's administration thought to be true. And that is that they are incompetent. That they've got a bunch of ideas, but they do not understand necessarily how to implement them and what the consequences for implementation might be. They also don't understand how to communicate them properly. Now, sure, a large part of the message getting muddied is a hysterical media just looking to, Trump said something Adolf Hitler said once. Zoidberg. But the reality is, you know, I'm in that quandary, right? Because I understand what mass immigration can do. Mass unchecked immigration can do. It can be dangerous. It is dangerous. Unfortunately, we've got evidence of that in Europe. There's no getting away from that. No matter how much you might want to put your head in your sand and not have the debate because you don't want to be construed as a racist or you don't want to feel even vaguely racist. Unfortunately, the situation we've got at the moment is there are people coming in under the guise of refugees who are radicalized, and this is a large factor, no matter what anyone might want to say, anybody from, you know, these government officials that want to come out and be like, everything is fine, or Merkel, who's even had to, you know, walk it back. It's a problem. Some of these people are radicalized, and this has led to an ease when it comes to the execution of terrorist attacks. Now, yes, they're still incredibly rare. Of course they are. Of course, you'll be able to pull up a statistic. Well, more people died from suicide than they did from terror. Brilliant, right? Cool. That's all well and good. But if there's one terrorist attack that went through, and it went through because somebody was in the country with radicalized ideology, and perhaps they shouldn't have been there. Perhaps they were there under dishonest means. I've got to say, I believe that's one too many. Now, by the same token, there's a humanitarian element. We mustn't lose our humanity. And that is that there's these wars going on, which are going to lead to displaced people, displaced children, orphans. It's going to lead to people that went from having normal, regular lives to having nothing, just a pile of rubble. That's it. To losing family members, to having nowhere safe to go. Now, I don't know what the middle ground is. I'm not smart enough to figure out what the perfect solution is. Here's what I suspect, though. I think there's no answer to it. I think there isn't an answer. I think people talk about it like there's a good way and a bad way. And unfortunately, the good way is to keep the rate and the system through which refugees are processed the same. And I don't think that's working. And I think there are risks involved with it, small though they may be. And equally, I don't think there's anything good or just or fair about pushing refugees away and letting them die in horrendous conditions in a country ravaged by civil war. I don't think that's humane or fair either. So what do we do? How do we fix it? It's unfixable as we look at it. Now, Donald Trump and his administration decided to go down the route of let's put a ban in place, a temporary travel ban, while we get a new system in place. And we're going to delay people from these 7 countries. We're going to delay these people being processed as refugees. And if you're from one of those countries and you have existing paperwork, then there's a chance if you leave our country for any reason, you might not be able to get back in. Now, immediately, the media couldn't just break it down. See, I'm a centrist, so what I would have liked to have seen is a breakdown of the problem that faces us. And this is the fundamental problem, that when you open your heart and you show humanity, unfortunately, some people might be able to take advantage of this. And in this case, we are talking about radicalized terrorists. That's the problem. They won't just take advantage of your generosity. They will go and kill people. It's super rare, yes, but it's happening more and more. It is frequent, not frequent, but it's increasing. It was always too frequent with one attack. And you've got a bigger problem of trying to defeat this radicalized ideology while simultaneously doing things in your foreign policy that give rise to the birth of radicals. Again, it's a problem that cannot be fixed. You just simply must always choose I mean, first of all, from a pure democratic standpoint, what the people want. But you've also got to choose sometimes not between good and evil, but between bad and evil. And that's fucked up. But that's life. That's reality. So what do you do about it? So I saw a lot of people immediately. It was hysterically reported as the Muslim ban. It wasn't a Muslim ban. All the largest populated Muslim countries were not on the list, which is interesting because, Pakistan has been involved directly in radicalizing people. We know from reports now there was Saudi Arabian diplomats might have had ties to 9/11. Saudi Arabia, definitely not on the list. So to call it a Muslim ban was ridiculous. I did think it was interesting. I actually saw a lot of liberal commentators saying, yeah, well, look, Saudi Arabia were even directly involved, and you're not banning them. So what your answer to make it more fair is to make it a Muslim ban? You're the liberals? This is your level of argument? And a lot of people reported it as being unconstitutional, which is gibberish, because people who aren't from America aren't protected by the Constitution of America.
Yeah, that was a bit of a whoopsies, I think.
Why do I need to say this? But apparently I do. But where it isn't constitutional, if you have been processed and you have, documentation that allows you legally to be here. Well, no, and this isn't even 100% unconstitutional. It's a debate. It's like a discussion, and this is where all this court stuff come from. Because you're not recognized as an American citizen. You just have a right to stay in America. It's not the same thing. That's where I have a problem with it. These people earned their stripes. What you're saying is that they can't get back into the country till you've reprocessed them. Where do they stay in the meantime? And they made no provisions for that. It wasn't like, we'll put you up in a nice fluffy hotel for 120 days. No, you're going back to the fucking shit that you fought desperately to escape from. Well, that is fucked up. I mean, there's no way of dressing that up. And I don't think it's malicious. I don't think it's racist. I don't think it's Islamophobic. I just think it's incompetent. I think it shows a lack of insight. I think it shows a lack of, sure, maybe compassion. But the hysteria around it, dude, the hysteria. Let's establish some fucking ground rules for this discussion, this debate, before we look at all of this coverage. Now, let's just start, right? You know, all these political fact checkers are fucking left as it gets. All right? Trump's Hitler. I mean, we've debunked that a million times. I've got a video debunking it. Go watch it. But people say Trump is Hitler. Trump's a fascist. Well, unfortunately, if you go to Snopes, who like to push propaganda where possible, for example, when Bernie Sanders talks about the incarceration level of black people being higher than it ever has been, and when that's proven not to be true, they give him like a half true. When Donald Trump regurgitates the same fact, they give him a false. They give him a lie, right? Because Bernie Sanders good and doddery old man and we all love. Donald Trump, the Antichrist. That's the official policy. Now, go to Snopes. And I knew this anyway, and you can read this almost anywhere. But go to Snopes, and they even have to admit that, yes, the Obama administration deported more people than any other administration prior to it. And I remember, and you can see here, during the third and final presidential debate on the 19th of October 2016, Republican nominee Donald Trump remarked that President Barack Obama has moved millions of people out. Millions of people have been moved out of this country. And a lot of people said this is lies. This is Donald Trump lying. And this is proof of his sinister intentions, that he's going to use this lie as an excuse to deport Mexicans and any other illegals, anyone he deems to be an other, right? Well, you can see here, as of 2015, more than 2.5 million undocumented people had been deported by immigration authorities. That's 2.5 million undocumented people got into the country in the first place. And that's just since 2009. Again, this is a side issue, I suppose. But is anyone going to realistically tell me that's all right? 2.5 million undocumented people who we don't know why they're here. We don't know what they're up to. Sure, they might just be making a better life for themselves. Sure, they might just want to work a fucking job and on a construction yard and send money back home to their families, maybe bring their families here. I'm sure the vast majority of them, almost all of them, have completely good intentions. But you're undocumented. You shouldn't be here. I'm sympathetic to the economic migrant. I'm absolutely sympathetic to it. I was part of a nuclear family myself. We moved to where the work was. I get it. But there's still a process. There has to be a process. And you can't just enter a country illegally. Surely, can we agree on that? Do we agree on that?
I thought we did, but I'm not sure, mate. I think that makes you racist now.
I wouldn't dream of it. I'm fortunate in the sense I have a British passport, and it's recognized around the world as getting it. But I still have to. When I came to America to get my visa, I still got fucking hauled over the coals. I didn't cry about it. They've got to do it. We live in a very different world these days, unfortunately. So anyway, 2.5 million undocumented people have been deported. They're just the ones that got deported, I should say, since Obama took office. During the 2 terms of his predecessor, President George W. Bush, just over 2 million were deported. So, I mean, it's not like George Bush had a sterling reputation. And, of course, the left, now that Trump's the new Hitler, the left, like George Bush, no wonder he's sat at home painting all the time now. Surprisingly good, by the way. He must love it. He'll have the coke and the fucking dupes out again. He'll be having a great time. Because George W. Bush was Hitler. I remember that. I was there. I remember Michael Moore writing propaganda about him. Now he's kind of remembered fondly. This guy got you into a war illegally. This guy lied to the 9/11 Commission. This guy, when he was governor of Texas, executed more people than any other governor in that state. He mocked a woman asking for clemency, going, woo-hoo. Like, This is all quantifiable. Yet now I have to believe Donald Trump is a worse person than George Bush just because someone saw him bogling with Michelle Obama once. That is the intellectual level we are operating at here. So it said the trend seems to be abating with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that's ICE, and now that's by the way is one of the coolest acronyms in law enforcement. Can we just say that? Like,
yeah,
it sounds like, oh, I'm in Special Unit ICE. What do you deal with? Well, Immigration and Customs. Like it's oh yeah, I see now. But like if you were ICE, like it's like a fucking 80s wet dream.
Yeah, that should be a DEA fucking
yeah.
department. That should be.
Straight plowing people, announcing efforts to prioritize convicted criminals and threats to public safety, border security, and national security. But if 2013 was the record-setting year with 435,000, I can't even fucking read. So agitated. 435,498 deportations. 2015 saw the lowest number in a decade, according to that agency, where they only removed or returned 4,013 individuals. So you can read all of these numbers. Expansion of Border Patrol budget, putting an increased police presence on the Mexican border. There's reports by the Washington Post about how ICE has maintained an average of 34,000 individuals in detention. So it says here, the police requires U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to keep an average of 34,000 detainees per day in its custody, a quota that has steadily risen since it was established in 2006 by conservative lawmakers who insisted the agency wasn't doing enough to deport unlawful immigrants. This is the reality here about being a huge country with territorial borders that are so broad and hard to prevent people from coming from countries in economic crisis. So it does. I want that right at the start, because does any of that make Obama a racist? Does any of that make Obama evil? I don't think you would ever find a liberal who would say that it does. But all of that said, when you have incidents like this, you cannot justify the Trump administration's execution of this. Look at this. As reported in The Guardian, this is fucking madness. This is embarrassing. This would make me embarrassed to be an American, honestly. And I live here, and I do feel a very strong affinity with the American people and the country. Former Norwegian Prime Minister held at Washington Airport over a 2014 visit to Iran. I wonder why he had to visit Iran as a Prime Minister of a country. I'm sure he was, crawling around on his elbows through that fucking netting, dodging bullets, learning how to make bombs. He's the former Prime Minister of fucking Norway.
But to be fair, isn't this more the people working at the airport fucking up than the administration?
Yeah, but
it's not like Donald Trump was there saying, take him in.
No, and look, again, obviously this is going to get reported in a very skewed way. But let's be clear here. As I said right at the start of the critique of this legislature, it was a shit show. Nobody knew what the fuck was going on. The media didn't. The people at the airports didn't. The people coming here didn't. I'm going to show you Mo Farah in a minute, thinking he wouldn't be allowed. Even though there was in the legislature itself, he would be anyway, but there was an exemption for athletes and notable figures that he could have invoked, even if it applied to him, which he didn't. Yet he went on Twitter and cried about how he couldn't get in. But this is part of an increased, kind of almost like paranoia that's going through the airport officers. Now, look, it's not as bad as it sounds, because when you say held at Washington Airport, he was there for an hour. It was a minor inconvenience. He's not like the people who literally couldn't get off planes or had to go back or got detained and handcuffed by immigration and custom officers. Obviously, that's not what happened. But, you know, he's got a diplomatic passport. He's a former prime minister. I mean, surely it's just, hang on a minute, mate. You might not know me because, you know, Norway and that. But, yeah, I just diplomatic passport, you know. So this order was causing fucking problems, you know, and it's basically that, you know, Iran is a big red flag now. You know, maybe it should be, but certainly not if you're a fucking leader of a free country. So again, these kind of stories, it's just incompetence. It's just incompetence. And that's what annoys me, because I think there was a way this could have been framed that wouldn't have caused all of this carnage and all of this outrage and all of this upset. You know, sure, the media would have spun it, but fuck-ups like this definitely do not help your cause. It makes it incredibly hard to make an argument that it's not some knee-jerk, jingoist, paranoid bullshit. So you can see here, look, I mean, I'll bring up the Mo Farah thing since, you know, I've already kind of spoiled that's where we were going. So, right, and this is the follow-up in the Telegraph. After, right, Sir Mo Farah relieved to be allowed to return to his family after fears, unsubstantiated, ill-informed fears of having to say daddy might not be able to come home following the Trump travel ban. You know, lovable Mo Farah, never done anything bad to anybody, does the Mobot, he runs, you know. Always championed as an example. It's a little bit insulting in a way, you know. Oh, look, they can integrate after all. Yeah, we know. We know. We know leftist media. We don't need you to infantilize black people and immigrants, but good on you. So, you know, for those that don't know, Mo Farah is, obviously he moved to Britain from Somalia when he was 8. And, you know, he's gone on to be a recognized athlete and has been made a knight of the realm. And he said about it, like, he said he didn't want to tell his children that daddy may not be able to come home because of this ban on citizens from 7 countries, of which Somalia was one of them, right? Now, it would never have applied to him because, as was reported in the Metro, right? Again, the Metro, that's the shitty free newspaper that you get to read while you're commuting to your fucking dead-end office job. What the Muslim ban means for UK citizens traveling to the US. Well, here's what it means. Absolutely fucking nothing. Spoiler. Means nothing. Okay? Our Foreign Office had to put a statement out because everyone was like just going nuts about it. And people like Mo Farah were fucking tweeting about it when it just wouldn't apply. So if you travel to the US from anywhere other than one of those 7 countries, the executive order doesn't apply to you. If you are a UK national who happens to be traveling from one of those countries, it doesn't apply to you. There is no, right? I mean, they don't even mention the specialist exemption for athletes in the policy itself. If you are a dual citizen of those countries, it doesn't apply to you. The only dual nationals who might have extra checks are those who are coming from one of the 7 countries themselves. For example, a UK-Libya dual national coming from Libya, where they live, to the US. Those people might get checked. And it's sure, the ban completely suspended temporarily the Syrian refugee program, which was the big part of the fucking argument. So this is hysteria like I've never seen. And like, does Mo Farah not have people around him? Does he not have like a lawyer or something? Just call up, about to make this tweet that's probably going to lead to widespread fear for a lot of people from Somalia and British nationals and dual citizens. I just wanted to make sure what I'm saying is absolutely right. It's complete bullshit, is it? All right, thanks. Well, nearly looked like a fucking idiot. But here's the thing, no one's going to call him an idiot. No one's going to say he was irresponsible. Because he's a lovable character. He's a nice guy. Shit, even I like him. I've got a voice in the back of my head right now while I'm calling him a fucking moron. Oh, it's Mo Farado. Mobot. Yeah, all right. Yeah, he can run. He's pretty good at that. But, you know, look at the nonsense. Look at this Facebook post he did. On the 1st of January this year, Her Majesty the Queen made me a Knight of the Realm. On 27th of January, President Donald Trump seems to have made me an alien. Hasn't. I'm a British citizen who's lived in America for the past 6 years. Working hard, dodging taxes, contributing to society, paying my taxes and bringing up our 4 children in the place they now call home. Now, me and many others like me are being told that we may not be welcome. It's deeply troubling that I will have to tell my children that Daddy might not be able to come home, to explain why the president has introduced a policy that comes from a place of ignorance and prejudice. Well, none of those things are true, mate. You're completely fine. Completely fine. Never under risk whatsoever could have invoked specialist exemptions, even if he was. Hysteria. Gibberish. So, you know, there's both sides of the fence. There's valid reasons. Now, the other ground rule for this debate, and I've seen so many publications try and spin this. Let's just say, and look, I'll bring up Mike because it's funny. Again, I love it when leftists have to admit the truth, you know, and that this list that Donald Trump extended these bans to, this executive order to, well, that was already named by the Obama administration. You can, you know, do all that. It's different. It's different. Obama wasn't doing what Trump was doing. You can do all of that. Sure, say all of those things. There might be subtle differences. You know, you might want to say that it's disingenuous when Donald Trump talks about how Obama suspended an Iraqi refugee program in 2011. You might want to say those things, and bring up the differences. And yeah, there's differences. The biggest difference, though, is in your perception. But this list of countries came, you know, from the Obama administration. You can see here the draft copy of Trump's executive order. I mean, he copied Obama's homework. The countries where citizens are barred entirely from entering the U.S. is based on a bill that Obama signed into law in December 2015. And it was an amendment to the Visa Waiver Program. It was the Visa Waiver Program Improvement and Terrorist Travel Prevention Act. So there's the name of the bill. And it was and the countries that got added to it, again, this is all before Trump was president. It was in February 2016 that they updated it to have Libya, Somalia, and Yemen, along with Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Sudan, which were already on there. Now, I mean, I'm not going to get into the fucking nonsense. Like, Sean Spice has been a fucking mess. He's been all over the place. But, again, if you want to fucking paint Trump as a racist, then what's good for the goose has to be good for the gander. Washington Examiner, for example, and yes, right wing as it comes, by the way, folks, this is the right wing Washington paper. Not a surprise that they went and did this, but they did this. Take it with the requisite pinch of salt. But this is what it is. They went and found 6 times that Obama had actually blocked immigrants from coming into the country. And they list them here. And you can see July 25th, 2011, barred those under a UN travel ban or who broke 29 executive orders covering transactions with terrorists. August the 4th, 2012, he banned anyone involved in war crimes or just about any other crime, including human rights violations. Oh, by the way, I'm not even saying I don't support this. I want that clear. April 23rd, 2012, he barred those helping Syria or Iran or involved in human rights abuses on behalf of those governments. May the 1st, 2012, he did another block on people providing aid and helping Iran and Syria. And in 2014, he banned anyone from South Sudan. March 6, 2014, barred entry of those claiming government authority in the Crimea region of Ukraine, presumably on behalf of Moscow. So there's been multiple occasions where, he stopped people coming into the country or extended orders. Iraq, the Iraqi refugee program, like I say, suspended in 2011. It's unbelievable that this is a thing. So then what happened is we got into this whole debate about, Trump can't do this. He can't do this. People were invoking the Constitution, which we said it's a little bit naive and silly to do that. But let's start with Chuck Schumer. So Chuck Schumer it came out, and this fucking mean old bastard, he had the audacity here. Unfortunately, again, here's a Paul Joseph Watson tweet that shows it side by side. Let Sam play it with audio. This is Chuck Schumer in 2015 compared to Chuck Schumer in 2017. Chuck Schumer came out and put on some of the fakest tears I have ever seen a politician indulge in. Like, really pathetic. If this was if you were in the director's chair, you would shout, "Cut, let's go again." It's so unbelievable. And yet this is somebody who in 2015 advocated for the halt of a refugee program. You can hear it from his mouth. Here you go.
Refugee has to be vetted, and they have to make sure that there is no connection whatsoever with terrorism. If there is even a doubt, they should not be admitted. Every refugee has to be vetted. If there is even a doubt, they should not be admitted.
This executive order was mean-spirited and un-American.
Right, so there you have it. I mean, you can see the absurdity, the hypocrisy. And again, this is all important when you weigh up the Trump travel ban order and try and portray it as racist. Some of the biggest critics are people who are just posturing for political purposes. They don't give a fuck. They just want to push back against Donald Trump. They don't care about the meat of the issue. They don't care about the people. They don't care about whether or not it's constitutional. But Fox Insider, just in case you're in any doubt that Schumer was faking those awful tears, and Sam, can I get your professional opinion?
Yeah, obviously 100% fake. You can tell he's an amateur as well, because he went with the old, when you're fake crying, I've heard before, you forget to evoke any emotion, so you overly influx fake bullshit in your voice. So it's really obvious to tell when someone's faking the tea and they try and talk.
Keep that in mind. Thanks. Where did you read that?
I can't remember. It's when I was reading a body language book. Because I used to be really into Darren Brown.
Dan M.
Yeah.
Someone Dan M.
Yeah.
You too can pick up chicks with hypnosis. That one?
Yeah, that one. Get hot babes in under an hour.
Yeah, I like that. What was the name of that fucking YouTuber that did that stuff?
Oh, fuck, I can't remember.
I'd kiss any girl you want. Who was that?
Let me find him.
Shit, I can't remember. He's got loads of bracelets.
Yeah. Is this it? Prank Invasion, is that?
Yeah, that's the guy. Prank Invasion.
His name's Chris.
Yeah, Chris. What's his face from Prank Invasion? Yeah. He's got a program that might be right up your street, Sam.
Nice, I'm in.
So, but anyway,
$9.99 a night.
The former NYPD commissioner spoke out about Schumer's fake tears and said he didn't even cry on September the 11th. So, the idea about, crying over this travel ban is ridiculous. Right? Just absolutely absurd. So, again, just be mindful that some of these critics are, full of shit. I mean, they're full of shit. Now, quite interestingly enough as well, there was a lot of legal discussion about whether or not it was legal. There was someone, I can't remember who sent me this, but someone sent me this from a legal breakdown of the article. Of the executive order. And you can see here, it says, thus, Article 2, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution, which states that the executive power shall be vested in a president, grants, in 18th century terms, the power to execute the law plus foreign affair powers. This is sometimes called Hamilton's vision of executive powers. But its first reasoned exposition after the Constitution's ratification was actually made by Thomas Jefferson. And that is why I've called it the Jeffersonian executive power in prior articles. Jefferson wrote, the Constitution has declared that the executive power should be vested in the president. The transaction of business with foreign nations is executive altogether. It belongs then to the head of that department, except as to such portions of it as are specially submitted to the Senate. So there was a lot of people saying what Trump is doing is illegal. Trump doesn't have the right to do this. I mean, he definitely has the right. Now, it's being debated in the courts. I did see a pretty good legal breakdown, and we all know how it went. The Trump executive order on immigration is legal. This is an article over on Town Hall by Matt Vesper, who basically kind of did a legal breakdown of it. And I thought there was, I'll read you this here. This is from, let me just find the name of the chap. Yes, so this is a national review. There were two immigration specialist lawyers, Andrew McCarthy and Dan McLaughlin, who they're not Trump supporters. That needs to be said. But they did say that this order was absolutely legal. Not that much of a departure from previous legislature passed by the Obama administration in regards to immigration policy, refugees, visas, and national security. And again, McLaughlin put out the caveat that he said he was troubled with the Trump administration. Okay? But he still had to stand by and say it was legal. So here's what they wrote. It says, even more ridiculous and blinkered is the suggestion that there may be something unconstitutional about refusing entry to refugees or discriminating among them on religious or other bases, a reaction that was shared at first by even some Republicans, including Mike Pence, when Trump's plan was announced in December 2015. Remember, before Pence was on the ticket, he famously said that it would be unconstitutional to ban people based on faith or anything like that. Now, there are plenty of moral and political arguments on these points, but foreigners have no right under our Constitution to demand entry to the United States or to challenge any reason we might have to refuse them entry, even blatant religious discrimination. That's the Constitution. You're either in or you're out. Like, we get to say. That's it. Under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, Congress's powers in this area are plenary, and the president's powers are as broad as the Congress chooses to give him. If liberals are baffled as to why even the invocation of the historically problematic America First slogan by Trump is popular with almost 2/3 of the American public, they should look no further than people arguing that foreigners should be treated by the law as if they were American citizens with all the rights and protections we give Americans. That's a very interesting point. You know, a lot of liberals say, why do people like America first? Why do people get jingoistic? Well, because when you say we want to give all of these rights, freedoms, and everything else to people, whether or not they're American, people kind of feel a bit like, well, what's the benefit of being American? Like, what do I get? Like, why can they just have it? I work and pay my taxes, and I live here, and I contribute. And they can just come here, and that's it. They're American immediately. Like, they just get to come in and be American. Obviously, people aren't going to like that. You can say that's stupid in and of itself. That's a separate argument. Liberals are likewise on both unwise and unpopular ground in sneering at the idea that there might be an increased risk of radical Islamist terrorism resulting from large numbers of Muslims entering the country as refugees or asylees. That's people seeking asylum. There have been many such cases in Europe, ranging from terrorists, as in the Brussels attack, posing as refugees, to the infiltration of radicals and the radicalization of new entrants. The 9/11 plotters, several of whom overstayed their visas in the US after immigrating from the Middle East to Germany, are part of that picture as well. Here in the US, we have had a number of terrorist attacks carried out by foreign-born Muslims or their children. The Zarnev brothers, that was the Boston Marathon bombers, were children of asylees. The Times Square bomber was a Pakistani immigrant. The underwear bomber was from Nigeria. The San Bernardino shooter was the son of Pakistani immigrants. The Chattanooga shooter was from Kuwait. The Fort Hood shooter was the son of Palestinian immigrants. All of this takes place against the backdrop of a global movement of radical Islamist terrorism that kills tens of thousands of people every year in terrorist attacks and injures or kidnaps tens of thousands more. There are plenty of reasons not to indict the entire innocent Muslim population, including those who come as refugees or asylees, seeking to escape tyranny and radicalism. And that's something that obviously doesn't get talked about. A lot of Muslims are running away from the radical Muslims. That's why you can't lump them all in together. But efforts to salami slice the problem into something that looks like a minor or improbable outlier, or to compare this to past waves of immigrants, are an insult to the intelligence of the public. Now, he repeats as well what the mainstream media tried to debunk, that the order has its roots in the Obama administration. He even cites exactly where. So suppose I'll read this too. Fuck it. Why not? Cato Institute's David J. Beer claims the temporary suspension is illegal because, in his view, it flouts the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965. This contention is meritless both constitutionally and as a matter of statutory law. Mr. Beer asserts that Trump may not suspend the issuance of visas to nationals of specific countries because the 1965 Immigration Act banned all discrimination against immigrants on the basis of national origin. And indeed, a section of that act, now codified in Section 1152A of Title 8 U.S. Code, states that, with exceptions not here relevant, no person shall receive any preference or priority or be discriminated against in the issuance of an immigrant visa because of the person's race, sex, nationality, place of birth, or place of residence. Even on its face, this provision is not as clearly in conflict with Trump's executive order as Beer suggests. As he correctly points out, the purpose of the anti-discrimination provision signed by President Lyndon Johnson in 1965 was to end the racially and ethnically discriminatory national origins immigration practice that was skewed in favor of Western Europe. Trump's executive order, to the contrary, is in no way an effort to affect the racial or ethnic composition of the nation and its incoming immigrants. The directive is an effort to protect national security from a terrorist threat, which, as we shall see, Congress itself has found to have roots in specified Muslim majority countries. Because of the national security distinction between Trump's 2017 order and Congress's 1965 objective, it is not necessary to construe them as contradictory, and principles of constitutional interpretation counsel against doing so. Federal immigration law also includes Section 1182F, which states whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or of any class of aliens into the United States should be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem appropriate. It's there in black and white. That's a federal statute. That's it. I mean, I'm not legally minded to a great extent, but I don't like legalese. But I can understand that. That's pretty plain. Trump's executive order also expressly relies on an Obama-era provision of the immigration law, Section 1187A12, which governs the visa waiver program. That's what we were talking about earlier with Obama and the changes he made. This statute empowers the executive branch to waive the documentation requirements for certain aliens. In it, Congress itself expressly discriminates based on country of origin. Under this provision, Congress provides an alien is eligible for the waiver only if he or she has not been present in Iraq or Syria any time after March 1st, 2011, in any country whose government is designated by the State Department as repeatedly providing support for acts of international terrorism, or in any country that has been designated by the Department of Homeland Security as a country of concern. That's Obama language. So it is merely an extension of existing legislature. And, I'm tired of fucking people trying to make out that, like, Trump has got into office, and all of these things are new and are indeed not, sure, they might be more extreme forms, but every president since September the 11th occurred has had these policies in one form or another. This idea that radical Islam coming into America is bad, that it has to be stopped, that we cannot just have free movement of people anymore. Everyone will tell you. People who went to America, as I did, before September the 11th, will tell you how very different the experience became after September the 11th. I wonder why that might be. So it seems absurd to me that, again, you try and say, well, he's got no legal right to do it. Does. Completely. It's the president. It's not even up for discussion. Anyway, just to wrap this part up as well, because I don't want to get into the whole thing with the judge. I feel that's like another hour, and it's already been long. At least this can be said. There was an admission by the Trump administration here, as reported by the BBC, that they had certainly communicated it poorly, which I think is inarguable. And you can see here the headline: U.S. travel ban, officials admit poor communication but defend the policy. U.S. security chiefs have admitted flaws in the way President Donald Trump's bar on people from 7 countries entering the U.S. was implemented. The policy has caused uproar internationally and was challenged by the acting U.S. Attorney General, whom Trump then fired. Top Republican Paul Ryan said he regretted some people with valid documents have been affected, and that's absolutely true, and it is indefensible. There were people who had an absolute legal right to be in America who were impacted on this. Very small number, but it's still not good enough. But he also defended the ban. You'll see a lot of liberals talk about Paul Ryan as being a good Republican, supports this ban. You can also see here, Saudi Arabian oil minister Khalid al-Faleh told the BBC criticism of the ban was exaggerated. Is he a Muslim, do you think?
Could be, man.
Saudi Arabian oil minister Khalid al-Faleh. I'm gonna place my chips on Muslim. Why would a Muslim support a Muslim ban? Sure, Saudi Arabia aren't on the list, but why would any Muslim come out and support a ban that specifically attacked and targeted Muslims? Bit weird. That's where everyone's going to go, Richard, that's a straw man. That's a low-hanging fruit. That's a shit argument. Seems pretty good to me, right? Saudi Arabian oil minister says it was exaggerated. It was a bit silly. UK Home Secretary Amber Rudd warned that the travel ban could become a propaganda opportunity for ISIS. And she called the president's move divisive and wrong. Now, I don't know if you saw this argument. This was another counter-argument against the ban, that it was going to cause more radicalization and more terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't that make it more justified? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't just not do it because you think they might go more crazy. That is not how it works. Alright,
Yeah.
well, I guess we just won't ban you just in case more of you go mental and start blowing shit up. That's not how it works.
Just think about that argument for a second. And again, it was repeated here. I'm going to hit you with some stuff on the fly. You can bring this up. It was repeated in Vox, right? Of course. Trump's Muslim ban is a huge gift to ISIS. ISIS says the US is at war with Islam. Trump just helped them make their case. Yeah, but if ISIS can't get in, good luck with that terrorism, buddy. You're gonna be doing that elsewhere, Why, and again, there was how it's a moral failure. People said it wouldn't even stop homegrown ISIS attacks, but there was a lot of people that were saying it's going to help ISIS. CNN said ISIS is celebrating the Trump immigration ban. Lots of people did, and quite funnily enough, the ISIS supporters said the ones that we hear from on like social media and stuff, because apparently they're allowed Twitter accounts, but Milo isn't. They said, according to a report in the RAG, the Daily Mirror, that it's actually going to be an invaluable tool for recruitment. And thank you very much, President Trump. So they actually thanked him for doing it. Now, again, there's counter arguments to that. But I think, just first and foremost, if the argument is being told you can't come in is more likely to make you want to come in and blow people up, I do find it hard to say, well, yeah, maybe that travel ban's bad. You know, and again, keep in mind, it's the left that are making these arguments, so I don't agree with that. I don't think necessarily just because you were denied entry to a country over temporary inconvenience for 120 days, or understood that, yes, your country is a tad problematic in some of the people it produces politically, so you're not allowed to come in and play with us. You know, like, I don't think that's going to make them go, well, I wasn't going to strap on the suicide vest. You know, now
you're either going to do it and not, like...
This is the final straw.
Yeah, exactly. That didn't break the camel's back, did it?
The carpet bombing on my country, I'll let that slide. The sanctions that affected the most vulnerable in my country, I'll let that slide. The on-ground invasion to seize our oil fields and our opium poppy fields, I'll let that slide. The portrayal of all Muslims as evil, saber-wielding lunatics, I'll let that slide. But this temporary travel ban, I'll tell you, that's it. Honey, get the vest, get the wires, get the nails.
Bring me the gunpowder.
It's a bogus argument. It's a bogus argument that doesn't require any deconstructing at all. And again, you know, there was repeated the myth that it was done on the basis of religion. You can see here, you know, this is what Trump's America looks like, and it was two Muslim women wearing ID numbers, hashtags. I mean, I don't know how to break it to these fine ladies. Maybe they didn't think this through. We all have a barcode and a number assigned to us. Yeah. When I go through an airport, I have a passport number with biometric information on. People are getting chipped now, so you can go through. You know, the people are having it. They're doing trial runs on that. Sorry, that sounds a bit Alex Jones, but it is true. Go Google it. When you come to America, you'll be assigned a social security number. These are numbers. They're not tattooing a barcode on your forehead, are they? You're just entering into a process where if you go into this country and we don't know what your intentions are, you might get monitored just a little bit. But anyway, you can see what Paul Ryan had to say here, saying that, you know, he said the policy would now be done correctly and would impose the kind of vetting standards that we all want to see. And I fucking agree. I want vetting at the airports, you know. I want that level of scrutiny. I've been in and out of countries and been pulled into that little room and asked questions. It's happened to me.
Yeah, I had it when I was leaving Germany.
I was going to say, happened to me in Germany. Happened to me in fucking Germany, mate.
They just must not like the look of us, mate. They must know.
Yeah.
He has the Welsh accent again.
Yeah,
Bring me my gloves.
Well-known, that radicalised nation of sheep shagging. But yeah, I got asked why have you got recording equipment?
Oh yeah. Oh mate, that always every time I go through airport security, they like fully think I've got a bomb because there must be something about the way a microphone looks that must be similar to an IED. I don't know, mate, but a microphone fully chimps them out, and I always have 3, right? So as soon as they're like, "Sir, can you please stand away from the back?" Like, fucking hell, put the AR down, mate.
Yeah, it's all right. It's just a microphone, you know. So I've had it. Do I complain? Look, no one enjoys going through airport security. It's one of the most, it's the things we'd like to eradicate from our lives if possible. But if you believe that there's a need for safety, then, that's the concession. We all get along with it. I mean, George Carlin didn't believe in that. He wants to take a risk, that's fine. Not so keen on that myself. But whatever. And you can see no one wanted to see people with green cards or special immigrant visas like translators get caught up in all of this. Now, again, I saw loads of people like just tweeting out randomly. I've got a lawyer and, he can't get back in the country now. And I'm having a fire. Like, what? It was just like this stream of like, what? You've hired exclusively Syrian refugees, have you? Like, I mean, like, am I supposed to believe this? You know, and it just, none of it's true. Like, there's all these exemptions. So it was terribly reported on. And I'm saying that even as someone who disagrees with the policy. Now, you'll love this, because it's going to segue into it didn't happen, and then I'm going to do one more thing, and then we can close the show. But in that clamor to show how all the refugees, were being so badly hurt, right? Let me get the original report. This will blow your mind, sir. I mean, because it just goes to show the standard of journalism. You know, it's all dead. Journalism is dead, right? So there was reports about an Iraqi soldier. Oh, right. So he helped the military. He assisted the American military, but he was Iraqi, and he came here, and he said that his mother died because she couldn't get back to America from Iraq because of the Muslim ban. Here you go. You can see an interview here on the Independent, who didn't verify or check or do anything. Just went straight in for the hysteria. So, and I'll just read you the opening paragraph before you play the video. A woman who lived in America since 1995 died a day after being turned away from the US as a result of Donald Trump's executive order to ban people from 7 predominantly Muslim countries. Mike Hager, the woman's son, said his sick mother was turned away from boarding a US-bound flight from Iraq despite showing her green card after the family decided to return from a visit when a 75-year-old fell ill. Just watch this 38-second clip.
I was just shocked. I had to put my mom back to the on a wheelchair and take her back and call the ambulance. And she was very, very upset. She knew right there if we send her back to the hospital, she's gonna pass away. She's not gonna make it. If they would have let us in, my mom, she would have made it, and she would have been sitting right here next to me. She's gone because of him. Understand, you have a daughter, you have family. Imagine if somebody do that to your mom. You put the terrorists on the side, the bad people, but don't mix everybody together.
Now, mate, right, when I saw this story, when it was unfolding, I was like, you know, I was right there with this dude. I was like, fuck me, that's bad. Like, legit.
Thing is, I knew this was, it didn't happen as soon as I saw it, but...
No, it's not. The thing is, I thought it's almost like, in a way, it's just Trump's luck, in a way. Because he is a fucking... Like, there's no getting away. You know, he is going to do these things. He's incompetent in that sense. He's just going to blunder around, you know, with his size 10s or whatever and just put his foot in it. You know, that's just the way it is. It won't be the first time. I mean, shit, people forget what an idiot George Bush was. People just I keep bringing him up. George W. Bush. With his misunderestimation and, you know, won't get fooled. You know, guy couldn't deliver his fucking speeches. Draft dodger. Everything about George Bush is rotten to the core, you know. And people forget about it. People think, oh, he's just a lovable, goofy old man. Now. You know, yeah, now that he's not president, he's all right, isn't he? But when he was president, trust me, we all got told the sky was falling. But when I heard that story about that dude's mother, and I was like, oh, and this guy's done a good turn for America, you know. He's one of the fucking, you know, great people helping America out. And his mother's died. That's just Trump's luck. And I did the fucking Bad Boys too. Shit just got real. I thought I was gonna have to, when we got around to recording this show about it, I thought I was gonna have to sit here and say what I've said pretty much about the incompetence, which is indefensible, and that this is truly disgusting, and that they should sue and they should be paid off handsomely, because that is absolutely awful. But of course, Sam, didn't happen. It didn't happen. It was a complete fiction. And I mean, look, dude, like, I mean, this guy's obviously in grief. I mean, maybe grief makes you do crazy shit. And this was a lie. This was an absolute lie. And this again leads to the hysteria around the Muslim ban, which isn't a Muslim ban. It's a travel ban on 7 countries. So here you go. This was reported by Fox 2, Detroit. The leader of a mosque in Dearborn has confirmed to Fox 2 that a man who claimed his mother died in Iraq after being barred from returning to the United States under a ban instituted by President Trump lied to Fox 2 about when her death occurred, lied to the media about when her death occurred. Imam Husham al-Husseini, leader of the Kabbalah Islamic Educational Center in Dearborn, says Mike Hagar's mom did not pass away this weekend after the travel ban was put in place. The imam confirms that Hagar's mother died before the executive order was signed. What a good imam, by the way.
Yeah.
Want to go on the record? This imam's having no shit. He probably's had, a fucking Make America Great Again cap on. Right?
He's woke.
But, yeah, he straight called this cunt out. Right? And he should. Because when you lie about stuff like this, you inflame passions and sensibilities, and people start doing crazy shit predicated on the lies. So on Tuesday, Mike Hagar told Fox that he and his family were stopped while trying to return from Iraq to Michigan. He said that he was allowed through because of his American citizenship, but his ailing mother and other family members were not. I mean, that's weird in itself. He then claimed that his mother passed away in Iraq on Saturday as he was traveling to the United States. Travelers from Iran, Iraq, Syria, Sudan, you all know that, right? Temporary ban for 90 days. After the story aired on Fox 2 and was posted on Fox 2 Detroit, we received many questions about the validity of Hagar's claims. Fox 2 has confirmed that his mother died 5 days earlier, January 22nd. According to Al-Husseini, Hagar's mother had kidney disease and was receiving treatment in Michigan, where she lived, before traveling to Iraq to visit family. I'd have stayed with the dialysis.
Yeah, she'd probably stay hooked up to that machine that's keeping you alive.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe she knew she was going to check out.
Yeah,
and wanted to
probably.
see before. I mean, that makes more sense,
Take me
right?
home, get me out.
Yeah. The imam said she passed away on the Monday, January 22nd, 5 days before the travel ban was instituted. All right? Al-Husseini says Hagar contacted him on January 19th to tell him his mother was very sick with kidney disease and he was going to Iraq to be with her. She died there, and another mosque in the Detroit area even held a prayer service in her honor. The imam who voted for Trump, he knows, did not want to address the general unrest over the travel ban or the weekend chaos for travelers and protesters at the airport. Instead, he called for peace and patience. There is confusion. There is a mix that they have to distinguish between good refugees and bad refugees. And if this is what it takes to stop them for a while, to screen them, that's fine for the security of the country. What a great fucking American. Get this guy his own show. Get him out front and center. A fucking imam who voted for Trump, who supports the temporary travel ban. Why isn't he being interviewed by the leftist media? Why do you have this position? Because he cares about this country and wants to keep it safe, even if that's misguided. So anyway, bullshit didn't happen. Now, here's another thing. Just to wrap it up. We've done a lot where we've talked about fake news. Well, how about we go from fake news to fake views? Right? You like that? Big segue. So we all know that this mainstream media outlets are fucking dying on their arse. They are dying on their arse. And there's many reasons why. First of all, social media is kind of shitting on the traditional form of media. If I can get my news in 140 characters, I'll probably prefer to, well, I mean, I wouldn't, but the average person might prefer to do that than reading a super long article or whatever. Not to mention, people are more distrusting of the mainstream media now because they keep wearing their fucking agenda on their sleeve. And unless you appeal to my specific set of values, I'm probably not going to click on your website. You add that to the sort of rise of ad block and that CPMs are just going down in general. It's a lot harder. There's a lot less money involved in advertising revenue for kind of digital media. It's all been heading down, right? So they've all got these problems. Now, super interesting that the New York Times and the Washington Post have been having these traffic spikes lately. So a guy called Josh Kaplan over at Vessel News, and I would say probably a Trump supporter because he calls him the failing New York Times. They said that Donald Trump and his election had led to them having more subscribers in 3 months than the whole of 2015. And they started saying we got an additional 276,000 digital-only customers. Right? And it's, of course, owned by Carlos Slim, a media magnate. And they've been talking a lot about, truth is vital to democracy. We do the best independent journalism, all this stuff. Well, they managed to do like a traffic breakdown on it. And obviously these things can be, a little bit fluffy, a little bit, not 100% accurate, let's say. But this guy, when he did a breakdown, had a look at the rankings at the beginning of December, the rankings in February, and you can see that his finding is traffic begins to pick up significantly around the middle of December for all three outlets that he's talked about, and that is the Washington Post, the Guardian, and the New York Times. He says they all had these traffic spikes at the same time, an increase in traffic. Now, they broke down each outlet's traffic by country, starting with the New York Times. And they had a jump of 5.1% of all site traffic came from China. And we all know China, has pretty strict rules about what you can and can't click on, right?
Yeah, you have to do a lot of it through a proxy and stuff if you want to.
Well, it shot up to 49.2% of all its site traffic across 2 months came from China. Boom. Like that. So you've gone from 5.1 to 49.2% while having these increases. And do you know what's really weird about it? New York Times is blocked in China. Has been since 2012. Interesting. So you go to the Washington Post, not blocked in China. Washington Post had 2.9% of all of its traffic from China. Now, it's got more. The Washington Post has a higher percentage of visitors from China than from America. 58.9%. The Guardian had zero traffic from China, no measurable metric, not blocked in China. I guess Chinese people just have good taste. Now, all of a sudden, in February, 57% of all their visitors came from China. And they had these huge Alexa ranking bumps as a result of this. So it's interesting that that's happened. And, this never got explained. This story didn't blow up bizarrely in the mainstream media. Odd that. I would have thought they'd welcome the opportunity to fucking tear down people that are faking the, cooking the books, cooking the traffic numbers, bragging about how they're growing when clearly they're not. Absolute madness. This is a big deal, right? But no.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yep. So there you go. So yeah, very interesting stuff. And just wanted to say there, it just goes to show that, these papers that they're not above. Like, if you ever worry about they'll stick to independent journalism, they'll be a lost leader. They're even doing. This is the kind of shit you would do if you were a small blog or a small website. Hire some traffic bots to boost my traffic. Do you know what I mean? So you could show people and sponsors, look how many clicks we get. It's so small time. It's the pettiest of petty corruption. Now, again, obviously we don't know for certain, but that's weird. And it's weird as well, given that we know how these outlets are all on the same page politically. And all the journalists and editors and people, they all talk with each other. They all share ideas. It's weird how it all happened at the same time as well. Unless, of course, we're going to go down the Russians hacked the election route and say China are doing it to discredit them. Maybe. I don't know. But very interesting. And just proof again why you cannot trust these people anymore. It's sad. I had a long debate about it today on Twitter. And basically, I think, I've got to arrive at the conclusion that journalism as we know it, as a means to truth, it is dead. It's gone. It's over, and I don't think we'll ever get it back. And I don't know what the solution is. I guess it's to you know, we need more people who want to just tell the truth rather than get clicks. We need to move away from these huge media corporations that can't make money anymore, but still deem profit to be a motivator, a necessity. And I don't know what that future looks like yet. Social media will play its part, but I mean, social media's already been deployed as a tool of disinformation. So anyway, guess we can wrap up the show there. A bit of a long one, but we said we had to cover this stuff. Now it's out the way, and I feel like we can get back on an even keel and catch up on stuff. So do you have any final thoughts, Sam, before we get back to working on the website, which I'm going to plug again at the end?
Stop smashing people's heads in with flagpoles, and one love.
One love. I like it, mate. One love. So there we have it. That was the Richard Lewis Show. Thanks very much for watching. We're going to try, and I know I always say this, we're going to try and get them out more frequently now, but I think we've hit a good place. We've got the website finished. We've got some time off. Sam's back from Vegas. So yeah, we'll churn out some content. Make sure you check it out by going to rlewisreports.com and leave a comment there. And certainly leave a comment on YouTube too. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. See you next time.